Hello, hello, hello. How's it going? How's it going, everybody? So just let me know if you guys can see me and hear me and that the audio sounds good and that the video looks good before we get started. Always got to do the sound check. I'll do the sound check. So let me know if everything sounds good. So excited for the stream today. So excited. Everything is clear. Everything's fine. Sounds good. Sounds okay. Excellent, excellent, excellent. So we got an exciting stream today. So let me just describe for you what we're going to be doing today, right? So we're going to be reviewing all of the Alien movies. And I mean, all of them. Quinn, where's your hat? The hat is not here today. The hat's somewhere else. Not doing that today. But we're going to be reviewing all of the Alien movies. All of them. From Alien 1 all the way to Alien Romulus. Yes, we're going to include Alien versus Predator 1 and 2. Going to go through all of them. We're going to compare them. We're going to rank them. And it's going to be a lot of fun. So one thing I like to do before I see like a new movie that's a part of a franchise is I like to watch all of the movies first. Like, again, I like to watch them all again so that like when I see the new one, I can like have it. I can, just like remember what they're all like so I can compare them. So it was a nice experience, especially with this particular movie, watching all of the previous movies and then getting to the point where I'm watching this one, because this movie I feel like references a lot of the old ones, but we'll get into that as we go through this. Now, I would like to say that we will have spoilers in this video for the Alien movies, including Romulus. But once we get to the Romulus portion of the review, we will do the first part of the review without spoilers. So the first part of the the first part of the Romulus, saying Romulan because I'm a Star Trek fan. First part of the Romulus review, no spoilers, and then we're going to get full-on spoilers all the way through. Lots of cool surprises in Romulus. So yeah, that's what we got going today. And we, of course, got like tons of visual aids. I got a bunch of screenshots from all the movies. I've got slides. This is a big stream today. Super exciting because Alien is one of my favorite franchises. Like not every movie in the Alien franchise is like super amazing or super great, but it's always been one of my favorites since I was a kid. My granddad really liked the Alien franchise. So yeah, I've always been about the Alien movies, and I don't know. They've been kind of middling for a while now. They haven't been like the best, like since I would say the first two. And we'll see. We'll see about Romulus. I guess we'll talk about it when we get to it. All right. So before we get started, have you guys seen Romulus? Are you a fan of the Alien franchise? I'm just going to look at the chat for a second. Let me see. Have you guys seen all the movies? Yeah, and everyone can give their ranking when we get to the ranking section of it too. So I'm getting some yeses. I feel like lots of yeses. Someone says not anymore. Why not? I feel like the Alien franchise still has a lot to offer, and we'll go over all of that in this stream. Like I said, this stream is going to be long. We're going to talk about like all the different things in each movie, the things that make them different, the things that tie them all together. Yeah. So there's some excitement. There's definitely some excitement. I was very excited for this movie. I didn't know what to expect. You never really know what to expect with a new thing, but spoiler alert, I definitely was pleasantly surprised with Romulus. But we're going to start from the beginning. Like I said, we're going to start from the beginning. We're going to go all the way back. We're going to take it all the way back to 1979, where we have Alien. So how we're going to do this is we're going to go through each movie. We're going to give like a quick synopsis. I'm going to tell you the things that I liked about that movie. I'm going to tell you some facts about that movie. And then at the end, we're going to rank all the movies. And that's how we're going to do this. So Alien, 1979. No one knew what this movie was going to be, right? People didn't know what this movie was going to be, really. The trailer didn't give away a lot. So the film follows the crew of the commercial spacecraft, the Nostromo, and they are awakened from cryosleep to investigate a distress signal from an unknown planet. It turns out to be a moon later on, but they don't really know that because the lore hasn't really been fully established in this first one, as you will see. Upon landing on this mysterious planet, they discover a derelict space station. No, a derelict spacecraft. And within this derelict spacecraft, they find like this dead alien. And most importantly, they find a chamber that is full of all of these strange, super bizarre egg-like objects. Now, I have to stress once again that when this movie came out in 1979, nobody knew what they were going to find. So it was very scary. It was scary for me as a kid because the first time I saw this, I had no idea what it was, right? So if you put yourself in 1979, when this movie first came out, delete all the knowledge that you have in your mind about Alien, this is a super freaky setup. It's a super freaky setup. All right. So one of the crew members, Kane, is attacked by a creature that like suddenly emerges from one of the eggs. And it attaches itself to his face. They try and they try and they try. They bring him back to the ship. They cannot get it off of him, but eventually it comes off of him and he seems fine until he's not fine. So this is an iconic scene. And I remember this scene from when I was a kid, because when I was a kid and I saw this scene, I had no idea that it was going to be a chest burster scene. Like, I didn't know that's what it was. I thought, oh, he turns into the alien or whatever. But no, the chest burster creature pops out of his chest, killing him instantly. Everyone is freaked out. And this thing rapidly grows into this large predatory being. And by the way, guys, I am seeing the super chats, but I will get them at specific times. So I will keep sending in your super chats and I will answer them all like at specific times during the stream. So this creature rapidly grows into this monstrous creature, and it begins hunting and killing the crew one by one. Systematically, it's very intelligent in the way that it hunts. Systematically. One by one, it's picking them off until you're left with Ripley and the surviving crew attempting to outmaneuver and defeat the creature. And in a desperate final bid to save herself, Ripley triggers the sequence to self-destruct the ship and escapes into the shuttle, right? And she thinks that she's good. But no, and this is a trope that continues throughout the entire franchise. The alien has made it onto the shuttle, and there's got to be like one final showdown, and it leads to her having the creature sucked out into outer space. And that is important, actually, that this creature is sucked out into outer space. So yeah, the film ends with the last two survivors, Ripley and, of course, the cat, as the last two survivors of the Nostromo incident. All right, and that is Alien. She enters cryosleep, and it ends with her, Ripley, signing off. So that is the original Alien movie. Absolute classic, of course. There's so much to love about it. There's so much to love about it, right? So one key thing about this movie, about the original Alien is a horror movie before it is a science fiction movie. It is a horror movie, right? And I feel like that's important because I feel like a lot of the other Alien movies are action-based sci-fi movies, but this first one is very staunchly in the horror genre. This is, of course, directed by Ridley Scott. And as I mentioned earlier, 1979, watch this for the first time, you have no idea what this monster looks like. So the face, for the face hugger and the chest burster are shocking enough. But then when you actually see this creature and all of its H.R. Geiger-esque madness, it's just incredible to behold. I mean, this creature is right out of the mind of H.R. Geiger, and it's horrifying. We'll talk more about the Xenomorph and all of its variants later on, but this creature design is so good and it's so compelling for some reason, and it's so creepy. This movie also has a lot of really incredible creeping tension. There's a lot of creeping buildup. It's definitely a lot slower, I would say, than basically all of the movies that came out after it, except maybe Alien 3. I mean, Alien 3 maybe like picks up towards the end, but Alien 3 I feel like is slower too, but we'll get to that. It's definitely slow and it's got that creeping tension, but it really is effective for this particular movie. And it's just a well-made movie. It's iconic. It deserves all the praise that it gets. Tune into later in the stream so you can see where exactly I rank this movie on the ranking of all the movies, because, yeah, fantastic film. So I have my Alien best things. So the best moments and things about this movie for me: chest burster scene, super shocking. Like I said, it's unforgettable. It's freaky. H.R. Giger's design. This is the first time we see it. Incredible design. The atmospheric tension. It's got so much tension. It's very unique with the way it plays out. The design of the Nostromo, the ship, the whole aesthetic of Alien. There's something about it that's so claustrophobic, because you're on this ship with an alien and it's very powerful and it wants to kill you and everything around you. So yeah, the entire atmosphere. Yeah, the air duct scenes, super claustrophobic and freaky. And also the reveal of Ash. So in this movie, we have the introduction of the android trope that we see in just about every Alien movie. So when you find out that Ash has put the will of the company over the survival of the crew, it's a very like kind of unsettling moment, because Ash is like kind of a grounding figure throughout the movie, and then you realize that he's not actually on our side. Again, like I said, it's a slow build and it's super haunting. So that is Alien. Best things about Alien. What do you guys think about the original Alien movie? Before we jump to Aliens, what do you guys think about the original Alien movie? Like, what are some of your favorite things? And while I'm here, I'm going to take a look at the super chats real quick. Is Blade Runner a part of the same universe as Alien? No. And I feel like it's probably a good thing, because like their world is already bad enough. And thank you, Fred Skull and Andonine, for becoming members as well. How can you not like the first Alien? How can you not like it? It's a 10 out of 10. It's like basically a perfect movie. It's one of Ridley Scott's best. Like I said, every movie Alien after this comes out of this movie. So yeah, it's basically a perfect 10 out of 10. It's the OG. It's the best. And like I said, we'll get to the ranking later. Yeah, the Alien ship design is so cool. That is such a cool ship design, and I'm glad they keep that design for the later movies as well. Someone says 11 out of 10. Agree with all these ratings, basically. All right. So let's move on to the next movie in the franchise. 1986, Aliens. Now, this movie is directed by James Cameron. So you have Ridley Scott taking a step back and James Cameron coming in. So it is a direct sequel to Alien, and it follows the story of Ellen Ripley, the sole survivor of the Nostromo incident, except this is 57 years later. She's been asleep in a cryopod for 57 years. And the movie opens up essentially with her discovery. They discover her in her escape pod, still asleep, and she's awakened 57 years later. She learns that the planet where the crew first encountered the alien being and where the Kane first gets infected is now named LV-426, and it is a moon that is being colonized by humans. So there's people on this planet, right? Which is, of course, freaks out Ripley, because she knows what's going on. She knows that there's aliens there, but Ripley's experiences are totally dismissed by the company. They don't want to acknowledge anything that happened to her. And by the way, at this point, the company is called Weyland Yutani. We'll get more into that at this point, but in the first movie, it's just the company. But by this point in time, we have the first introduction of Weyland Yutani by name. So they won't acknowledge what happened to her. They're like, no, that didn't happen. You're crazy, aliens. So she's not only haunted by nightmares of the events of the first movie, but she's sad about the fact that her daughter has died of old age, because it's been 57 years and her daughter is now dead of old age. So yeah, she's kind of going through it. So she's kind of going through it. So Ripley. So anyway, the company eventually loses contact with the colony, and they enlist Ripley to return to the planet as an advisor to a squad of like Marines to investigate. So this movie introduces the concept of like kind of like the company working alongside the military, which becomes kind of a trope that we see in a lot of alien movies from this point on. So they enlist Ripley, and she reluctantly agrees to join the Marines, mainly because she wants to prevent this thing from like getting out and spreading more. She wants to prevent the further spread of like this creature and the further loss of life. So she reluctantly agrees to join. The hero goes back. And I think this is a defining moment for the character Ripley, because in the first movie she's still developing, but in this movie she really becomes the Ripley that we know and love, that the Ripley that we see, that the iconic Ripley. And I think that it starts with her choosing selflessly to go back, even though she knows like what she's going to face on this place, right? So they arrive on the colony, and the Marines find everything seemingly deserted. But there is signs of a violent struggle. And eventually they discover that the colonists have been captured by a hive of aliens, and they're being used as host for the creatures. And the Marines themselves soon come under attack by a massive number of xenomorphs. And there's way more xenomorphs in this movie than in the first one. In the first one, there's only one xenomorph. This one is aliens. So they're getting attacked by a lot of xenomorphs, and it's just freaking cool. It's just freaking cool. So the xenomorphs are attacking, and basically the Marines are getting screwed. They're forced to retreat. The situation deteriorates. Ripley eventually starts to take command, and this is when the movie like really starts to kick off, because she's like, I'm going to save the surviving colonists, particularly Newt. She's like, I'm going to save Newt, because in her eyes, this is her daughter. Her daughter has died of old age, but like, you know, this is her proxy daughter. So like she basically sees her daughter and Newt. So she's like, I'm going to survive if I can just save this little girl, because this is the only, she's like, I'm going to save Newt at all cost. So they form like a really close bond in this movie. So, and it's driven by the maternal instincts. And I think that's a really cool aspect of this movie, because we are also introduced to the alien queen in this, who's also driven by maternal instincts. So you got Ripley driven by maternal instincts, and the alien queen later on driven by maternal instincts. So I thought that was really cool. So there's a climactic battle, and Ripley has to face off with the monstrous leader of the hive, who is the alien queen. So we get the introduction of the alien queen in this movie, and Ripley and the queen engage in a brutal fight. It's really cool. Ripley puts on the power loader. It's one of the most iconic scenes in sci-fi movie history. You know, the "get away from her" line, and it eventually all ends with the queen being launched into outer space, which, like I said, is a trope that is established in the first movie, and it continues. So the film ends with Ripley, Newt, and the surviving Marines, Hicks, and the damaged android Bishop, who's like an awesome. I love Bishop. Like Bishop is so cool. They enter cryosleep and they head. They're off in cryosleep, hoping to be found again. The movie ends like it. The ending of Aliens has, I guess, similar to the first one, has this serene ending, but especially after so much like action and tension, it kind of like signals that both Newt and Ripley have found like a semblance of peace, right, after such a harrowing ordeal. So that's how it ends, and it kind of ends like with this sense of with peace. And they all get into the cryopods, and that's how it ends. So that is Aliens. So a lot of people think this is the best movie and the entire franchise. Like I said, I'm going to hold my rankings to the end. But so let's talk about this movie a little bit. So this movie, I think, marks a shift from the first one, where the first one is primarily horror. This movie is action. It's action, horror, sci-fi. And I don't know, I feel like it's a preference thing, whether you're going to like this one more than the first one. But what I can say is this movie has some of the most iconic characters in the entire franchise. Vasquez, super iconic character, super iconic lines from everybody, basically. Ripley in the robo-suit, super cool. And also the way this movie expands the lore of Alien, right? Weyland Yutani. Like, so in the first movie, you just have the company. They never say Weyland. They never say Yutani. They never say any of that. It's just the company. But by the time you get to this movie, it's Weyland Yutani, and you see that in every movie since. You also see in this movie the Xenomorph being named Xenomorph for the first time. It comes out of this. Like, so this is the first time we see the Xenomorph being named the Xenomorph. Just so many things about the lore that we know are established in this movie, right? We get hints at the greed of the company in the first movie, where they prioritize recovering the Xenomorph over the survival of the crew. But here you see even more of the greed of this company, where like even after they see all the damage that it can do, they still want it. They still want to use this creature for profit or whatever it is. So yeah, it really drives home the greed of Weyland Yutani. Also, we learn that where was that? Yeah, it establishes a lot more lore about the Xenomorphs themselves as well. So we learn about the nature of their life cycle, and the fact that there is a queen, and the fact that they operate in a kind of hive mind, and the Xenomorphs act a little bit differently in this movie compared to the first one. But we'll get into that later too, because we have a whole section where we're going to be comparing how the Xenomorphs behave in every movie. But yeah, we learn more about the way the Xenomorphs behave, more about their biology, more about the wider universe and Weyland Yutani. We get a lot of character development with Ripley. There's so much expansion in this movie that like it's so difficult not to love. And I see why people have such a hard time choosing between this and the first one, because like the first one is so iconic and the way it sets the stage, but this one really takes those ideas and just like makes it such a boom. And one word that I can really use to describe this movie is thrilling. It's exhilarating. The action in it is exhilarating. It's got those beautiful practical effects. It's so 80s. It's so fantastic. It's a treat. And I rewatched all of these like recently, like I said, but I watched the special edition of Aliens in 4K, and it just looks phenomenal still. It's incredible how well this movie holds up. It's actually incredible how well this movie holds up. James Cameron deserves all the praise that he gets, because this is just a phenomenal movie. But like I said, I'm not going to do the ranking yet until the end. So let's get to best moments and things about Aliens. All right. Robosuit, power loader versus Queen. Come on. you can't not love it. Like Ripley in the Robosuit, the power loader, get away from her, you be. Just iconic. Like I said, the nature and the Queen and the life cycle of the Xenomorph, super intense. We see that the Queen is like a little bit more intelligent. She's the commanding force. Very interesting. Oh yeah, the in this movie, just the ship entering onto the moon, it's just so intense because you don't really know what's waiting there. You kind of know from the first movie, but it's got such a haunting moment. You really don't know it. So the way they build the tension is really, really, really well done. Yeah, the character evolution of Ripley, like I said, she's maternal and heroic, and she develops a real strength in this movie. The way she goes back to rescue Newt is one of the coolest moments in any movie ever, because it is so selfless. Like, she might die, and she might absolutely die, but she doesn't care, because like, why even live if you can't save this little girl? And it was an incredible moment, and that's when you see Ripley become the hero that we know and love in that moment. All the technology looks super cool. I really love the style and the look of this movie. All the quotes, Hudson's quotes, Vasquez's quotes, all really good. The alien ambush when all the aliens are coming at us, really good. And then of course the ending when the Queen is pissed off that Ripley tricked her, and she comes after Ripley and she chases her down. Epic scene, incredible practical effects. Oh my god, if the practical effects are good in the first movie, the practical effects are incredible in this movie. James Cameron deserves all the praise, because the practical effects are incredible puppetry, incredible suit work. So aliens, phenomenal movie. What can be said? So before we get to the next one, and I'm enjoying this stream a lot, guys. I hope you guys are enjoying it. Before we get to the next movie in the franchise, what do you guys think of Aliens? Do you guys like Aliens? You better not say no, because I feel like it's kind of impossible not to like Aliens. I can see liking the first one more, but how could you not like Aliens? How would you not like Aliens? And while you're answering, I did want to show off this popcorn bucket. Check it out. I think the Dune series kind of started like the popcorn bucket war. I wish that would focus, but yeah, here we go. The Dune series kind of started the popcorn bucket war. And so now we got these alien ones. That's pretty freaking sick. And it says Weyland Yutani right there. Building better worlds. Yeah. Thanks to Tribal Life, moderator, for hooking me up with that. Like, you can totally get that from his website. There's a link in the description, I think. But yeah. So yeah, that's a super cool popcorn bucket. So yeah, everyone likes Aliens. All right. But let's move on to the next movie in the franchise. Alien 3. Alien 3. Alien 3. Alien 3. Okay, so this is 1992. James Cameron does not come back for Alien 3. We instead have David Fincher coming on. So this one picks up immediately after the events of Alien. So it's immediately. It's not very much time at all. Like there's 57 years in between Alien and Aliens, but this one is immediate. So it continues the story of Ellen Ripley. So, you know, they escape the Alien Queen in the last movie, and you got Ripley, Newt, and Hicks and the android Bishop all in cryosleep on the spaceship. However, there's an onboard fire, and it forces the ship's computer to eject their escape pod. And their escape pod crash lands on a planet called Fiorina 161. All right, so this is a desolate penal colony populated by violent male inmates and former employees of the Weyland Yutani Corporation. So Ripley is the only survivor of the crash. Newt, Hicks, killed. And then Bishop is, they say he's damaged in the beginning. But we do see, Bishop does show up again, but he's very, very damaged. So Newt and Hicks are dead. So after the big climactic huge thing at the end of Aliens, after that huge thing where she risks everything to save Newt, everything. It's all about Newt. The whole movie, it's all about her saving Newt. And Newt is killed off screen at the beginning of this movie. I'm just going to leave that right there. And Ripley is the only survivor, and she's, of course, devastated by the loss of Newt. So she's absolutely devastated, and she's also confronted with this mistrustful environment that is this prison, where these inmates follow like this super strict kind of self-imposed like religious order. And also Ripley's arrival is coinciding with the start of these brutal killings that begin to plague the prison. And it's obviously the alien that's on the loose that has survived the crash somehow. It gestated in one of the escape pods and, you know, basically survived. Now, this is a new version of the alien creature. Now, we've never seen a version of the alien creature of the Xenomorph like this, because it gestated it's like a runner. It's sometimes referred to as the runner or the dog alien. It's faster and more animalistic. And it seems even more dangerous in the confined spaces of the prison, right? So we've got the dog alien, and it's different because it came out of an animal. So in the version of it that I saw, it comes out of an ox, but apparently there's a version of it that comes out of a dog. I always remember the ox. I don't remember the dog, so I don't remember that. So in this one, we've got the dog. We've got a new version of the Xenomorph. It's faster. It's more aggressive. It seems like it's you know, it kind of runs around like a dog. So Ripley tries to organize the inmates and the few surviving staff members to fight off the alien. But she herself begins to experience symptoms, and she comes to realize that she herself has been impregnated with the queen embryo. So the reason that the dog alien doesn't like attack her, and like the other scene, the reason it doesn't kill her is because we realize that she is carrying the future of its species. So it's not going to attack Ripley. She's pregnant with the queen embryo. So Weyland Yutani also becomes aware of this, and they're heading to the planet, right? Because they still want to retrieve the xenomorph. They want the xenomorph. They want to use it for bioweapons. They want to use it to make some sort of profit. They still want it, but Ripley is not willing to let them gain control over the alien. She does not want them to have it. So she ultimately ends up sacrificing herself by throwing herself into a furnace, ensuring that both her and the creature are destroyed, because she has nothing to live for at this point. So the movie ends, prison is shut down. You hear Ripley's voice repeating the same thing that she said at the end of the first movie. So Alien 3. That is Alien 3. And that is definitely, we definitely have the bleakest, very, very, very bleak movie. It definitely returns, I think, to more of the horror aspect. It definitely turns to more of the horror aspect versus like the action of the second one. It's a lot bleaker. I will say that the xenomorph puppet, when they showed it, looked good, but the CGI was not good. And it was actually so bad that I wish they hadn't used it at all, or they would have used it way less, because the CGI of the runner alien looks really bad. It's 92, but it's so bad. It's like unforgivably bad, and I'm sure that it was bad even then. It does not look good. I also would have not made the decision to kill Newt. Right, I think it's kind of a slap in the face a little bit to the ending of Aliens. It's a little bit of a slap in the face, considering, like, because like I said, I watched them all back to back recently. So after seeing Ripley go through so much, to then lose Newt again in such a horrific way, and then just like die at the end because she has nothing to live for, is a little bit deflating. So I will say that about the movie. There are things to like about the movie, and we'll just go right to the things to like about it, right? There are some things to like. There's lots of explosions, right? The explosions, they were definitely trying to compete with the ending of Aliens 2 with the explosions in this. Like I said, the practical alien dog looked good. Sigourney Weaver's portrayal is always good, right? So she's good. David Fincher's directing is definitely distinctive, right? He has a distinctive style, and there is something to be said for David Fincher's style. Right, so I'll give Alien 3 that. The score is really good. The score is good, and the setting of the prison planet. The setting of the prison planet is a cool idea. I will give it all of those things. So yeah, that's Alien 3. Like I said, we'll rank them later on. We'll rank all the movies later on. But that's Alien 3. That's what happens in it. It is a different kind of movie. It took it in a direction that's, like I said, is a lot darker, I feel like. Yeah, so that's Alien 3. Not much else to be said. What do you guys feel about Alien 3? What do you guys feel about Alien 3? Do you like it? Do you hate it? Oh, yeah, Charles Dance in this movie. Charles Dance is in this movie, and he's pretty good for the little bit of time that he's there. Oh, the Bishop scene in Alien 3 actually is good. Like when they bring Bishop back for a little bit. It's a good, excuse me. That is a good scene when Bishop gets plugged back in for a little bit. I do like that. I do like that. It's okay, not bad. 6 out of 10. I'm getting some 6 out of 10s. I'm getting 4, some 4s. It's weird. 6.5. Yeah, I understand. I understand all these ratings. I think some people are starting to like this movie a little bit more as time goes on. And some people don't like it as much, and some people really, really hate this movie. Like I said, my ranking is coming through at the end. I'm getting some 4s. You see, we have an 8. I see an 8. Couple 8s. Yeah. So I feel like this movie is definitely a mixed reactions from people. But I think I got some more super chats. So before I move on, I'm just going to check. Purple Lemonade says, "You're too fast. I haven't seen the movie yet." Well, the first part of my Romulus review is going to be spoiler free. So if you just want to hear what I think about it before I get into the spoilers, you can wait for that. And thank you for your super sticker, Jack. All right, we're going to move on to the next in the franchise. Next movie in the franchise. And this one I think I saw this one a good amount of times as a kid because it was on Sci-Fi Channel so much. This was on Sci-Fi Channel a bunch. And this is Alien Resurrection, directed by Joss Whedon, who I thought Joss Whedon's name was Josh Whedon for the longest time, but it's Joss. Joss Whedon. All right, so Alien Resurrection. This was on the Sci-Fi Channel. I feel like they played this constantly. So it is the fourth movie in the franchise, 200 years after the events of Alien 3, I believe. So we get a huge time jump in this movie. And Alien Resurrection is actually the most into the future timeline in the entire Alien franchise that we have, right? Most into the future timeline that we have. So the story begins with scientists above the USM space vessel. It's the United Systems military space vessel. And they are successfully cloning Ripley from blood samples that they took from the planet from the last movie, the prison planet. So they have successfully cloned her. And their goal is to extract the alien queen embryo that was inside her at the time of her death. Right? So there's an alien queen inside of this clone. They're trying to extract it. The cloning process is successful, and the queen is surgically removed from Ripley. But they still have this Ripley 8 clone to deal with. So we've got Ripley 8. Ripley is now a clone, and she possesses a mix of human and alien DNA. She's got enhanced strength. She's got enhanced reflexes. She's also got acidic blood, and she also has this kind of, I think, almost like telepathic connection with the Xenomorphs and the Xenomorph Queen. She's connected to them in a really weird way. So yeah. And honestly, I'm just gonna say it. Clone Ripley is cool. I know a lot of people don't like this movie, but Clone Ripley is cool. I'm sorry, Clone Ripley is cool. But anyway, the scientists on the ship, they start breeding the Xenomorphs, and they start using human host because they're intending to study them for whatever military purposes. Oh, and by the way, in this movie, Weyland Yutani has been absorbed by the military. So that's another thing. So they're trying to create a weapon or doing whatever they do, whatever the military does with Xenomorphs. So they are purposely breeding the Xenomorphs using unsuspecting people. Actually, I think in the movie, they literally have people that are kidnapped from people that are on the way to one of their colonies, have their cryopods kidnapped, and then they just wake up and are instantly face hugged, which freaking sucks, by the way. Jeez, bro. Okay. Anyway, so Ripley 8 actually still has some of the memories from her previous life, so she's trying to reconcile all of this. Oh wait, let me go back a little bit. The scientists on board, like I said, are trying to control the Xenomorphs, but the Xenomorphs do manage to escape. They escape, obviously. They kind of work together and use their acid blood to escape. So it's kind of showing a higher degree of being able to work together. Okay. So they escape. They start wreaking havoc. They start killing people. And Ripley ends up teaming up with the mercenaries that are on the ship who actually brought the bodies that get infected with the Xenomorph. So the mercenaries team up with Ripley, and one of these mercenaries actually turns out to be an android, and this is Call, who is revealed to be an android, but she is a different type of android versus the ones that we've seen previously. She's an android that I think they say she's designed by other androids, so she's more compassionate. She's just a slightly different kind of android, and she's only there because she wants to prevent the Xenomorph from getting to Earth, right? So she's there with a different mission. So anyway, that's we'll talk a little bit more about her later. But anyway, Ripley discovers wait, what? Did I have that there? Okay, I don't know. Oh, this was I don't know why I have this screenshot here. But this was a cool scene though. Like the underwater xenomorph scene, it didn't look bad. Like that was a cool scene, right? But anyway, Ripley discovers the queen. And there's something a little bit different about this queen. This queen doesn't lay eggs. Instead, she gives birth to a single child, a creature called the newborn. And this thing is freaky because it's like part human, part alien. It's super weird. It's super kind of grotesque looking. And, eventually Ripley is forced to kill it, even though she does have some kind of attachment to it because it recognizes her as its mother. But no, she's forced to kill it. She has to suck it out of the airlock. And in my opinion, this is one of the coolest versions of the getting sucked out of the airlock trope that you see in the alien movies, because like she like just cuts herself and like a little bit of acid blood comes out, and it's just sucked out into outer space, and it's just ripped apart. And I think that's one of the coolest sucked out in outer space moments. So the movie ends with Ripley, having the thing sucked out in outer space, and then her and Call end up on Earth. They reach Earth, and Earth is like all ruined and apocalyptic, and Ripley is like reflecting on her identity and the future of Ripley. I almost feel like there could totally be a sequel to this movie. I did see that Alien Earth got announced, and I'm like, if you're going to do an Alien Earth movie, you could totally set it after, or an Alien Earth movie, an Alien Earth show, you could totally set it after Resurrection. Sigourney Weaver's right there. Like, there's been just enough time to like have like a badass older Ripley 8 clone still living on Earth. You know what I mean? And now Earth is like infected with xenomorphs or something because, they're never dead. You know what I mean? So I feel like that could be a cool idea. I don't know what Alien Earth is going to be at all. Yeah, but I don't know. So yeah, that is Alien Resurrection. That's Alien Resurrection. So yeah, like I said, this is a fun movie. Alien Resurrection is a fun movie. I don't know why some people are super down on this movie, but Alien Resurrection is fun. It's got its silly moments, but it's super fun. The newborn looks cool. The new version of the Queen looks cool. Alien Ripley 8 is Ripley 8 is awesome. I mean, Ripley 8 is awesome. Like, she is cool. The basketball scene is cool. It's got good comedy moments. I thought Ron Perlman was super funny. And like I said, you could totally do a sequel and set it on the dystopian Earth with an older Ripley 8. Is it on par with Aliens? No, it's not. And I don't think it's trying to be necessarily. I don't think it's trying to be. I think this movie knows that it's not as good as the first two. I think this movie knows that, and it's fun. And maybe that's just because I'm a little bit nostalgic about it too, because I remember this one on the Sci-Fi Channel a bunch when I was a kid, and I remember I would have fun with it when it came on, and watching all the movies in order, I still had fun with it. I absolutely had fun with it. So let's talk about the best moments. Newborn, the concept of the cloning, like it adds like a whole twist to everything. It like shakes up things a little bit. I think the cloning aspect does what the black goo does later in the series, but we'll talk about the black goo. Don't you worry. The killing of the clone, the killing of the clones scene. Okay, there's a scene in this movie where Ripley 8 goes into the lab and she sees all of the messed up 7 other Ripleys that they tried to clone. And they're all like messed up and deformed, and she just like sets it all on fire and like kills all of them. And that's just such a twisted, messed up scene, because like you would kill them, right? They're like, yeah. And then there's there's that scene where she walks up to one of them and it's like laying on the slab and it's like, kill me. Like it's classic. It's a classic body horror moments, body horror moments. And it was cool. It was a cool moment. Someone says a waste of ammo. Yeah, there's a lot of ammo wasting in the Alien franchise. Let's be real. There's a lot of ammo wasting in this entire franchise. Um, okay. Also, too, we can talk about this. The visual effects way better than Alien 3. You can really see the progress that they've made in 5 years of visual effects from 1992 to 1997, because the visual effects on the Xenomorph look so much better by like orders of magnitude. So I can appreciate that at least. Yeah, and like I said, it's got a unique feeling compared to the other movies. It's got a unique vibe. It's got a unique, like almost comedy-esque vibe. It's not taking itself super seriously. The basketball scene is super cheeky and fun. I love like the back and forth between Ron Perlman and Ripley 8. I think it's a cool dynamic that they have going on. So I appreciate this movie. Okay. So now I'm gonna look at the chat. What do you guys think? Alien Resurrection, thumbs up, thumbs down. What's your rating on this one? I'm looking at the chat now. Thank you, Official Dapper. Thank you. And I did get a super chat. Thank you so much for your super chat. Have you seen Junette's other films? Like, I have not seen either of those movies, but definitely going to have to look into them. Definitely will be looking into them. So I'm getting some 10 out of 10s for this. I'm getting some 5, 7 out of 10, 5 out of 10, some thumbs ups. Middle for some people, 7 out of 19, 6.5 out of 10. Some people are saying it's in their top 3. Not as good as the first 2, but had fun watching it. I tend to agree. I think it was enjoyable. I do think it was. Joel, I'm getting some 9 out of 10s, some 7s, thumbs up. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And obviously, Worm Tongue from Lord of the Rings is really cool in this movie. All right. And thank you for your super chat, Alt Grindle. Thank you so much. So let's move on to the next movie in the franchise. And of course, we're making our way all the way to Alien Romulus. And in the first part of the Alien Romulus review, we will talk about no spoilers, and then we'll get to the spoilers. So we're making our way to it. But next, we're going to get to the next movie in the franchise. You guys know what the next one is? Can you guess? Alien versus Predator. So yeah, I did include Alien versus Predator in this rewatch, and we're gonna get through these real quick. So Alien versus Predator, 2004. Did I write who this one is directed by? I didn't write down who directed this one. My bad. But yeah, Alien versus Predator, 2004. It kicks off with Charles Bishop Weyland. So the director of this one is Paul W.S. Anderson. That's the director of this one. All right, so this version of Bishop here, right? This is not connected. First thing about this movie, this is not connected. This is not connected to the other Alien movies. This is like a what if thing. It's not connected, right? So this version of Weyland is not the same Weyland that you see in Prometheus. It's not the same Weyland that's referenced in Romulus later on. It's a whole different guy, right? And this guy and his company, Weyland Corp, it is named in this movie. They detect a heat signal under Antarctica. He puts together a team. They're gonna go like investigate it. They find an ancient pyramid hidden beneath the ice. It's got some At the Mountains of Madness, H.P. Lovecraft stuff going on. It turns out this pyramid is like an ancient battleground where predators would fight aliens as like a rite of passage. Yeah, so that's a thing. And so they would hunt the Xenomorphs as like a rite of passage, and it's been going on for thousands of years. All right, so the team explores the pyramid, and you got the alien is there, and the predator is there, and they inadvertently awaken the alien queen somehow by just being there. They trigger it, and so she starts laying eggs, and chaos ensues. And they're trapped in the thing, and the predator is fighting the alien. And then you get, I guess, a cooler part of the movie is when Lex teams up with the predator, and the predator is named Scar, so they kind of have like a team up. So Lex and the predator like team up because she's like, no, I'm going to team up with you. And they fight their way through the pyramid, and they face off against the alien queen in the end. And it's kind of a cool battle. They defeat her, but the predator dies, and he gives Lex like a nice, cool scar. And then the other predators come at the end and they're like, okay, here's this cool predator weapon. And then at the end of the movie, on the predator ship, an alien burst from the chest of the predator. And it is the beginning of the Predalien. So that is Alien versus Predator. So yeah, what to say about this movie? It's obviously action. It's obviously sci-fi. It's not taking itself seriously at all. It's got some H.P. Lovecraft at the Mountains of Madness vibes, which I actually enjoyed a little bit. I don't hate this movie. Do I love it? Do I think it's like a good movie? No. Do I like hate it? No. I think it's, like I said, a dumb what if movie that doesn't have to be a part of the rest of it, and it doesn't think it's part of the rest of it. It's not pretending to be part of the rest of it. I think it's a dumb, fun movie that has like some cool moments in it that are fun to watch. You know what I mean? I feel like it's on the level of like, I don't even know what to compare it to. Like, I don't know, like some dumb Marvel movie that's just like, I don't know. I don't know. It's not like the worst thing I've ever seen, but it's not like anywhere near like the other movies. So yeah, I do have some best moments, I believe. Oh no, I actually don't have some best. I do that later. Okay, let's get to the second one, because the second one I feel like is actually a lot worse. I have worse things to say about the second one. So Alien versus Predator 2, it kicks off right after the first one. You know, you got the Predalien waking up on the Predator ship, and the Predalien is like it's like a combination of the Xenomorph and the alien. It wakes up on the Predator ship and it lands in like small town like Ohio or something, Colorado somewhere, and it starts wreaking havoc, killing everybody along with several Xenomorphs. It's terrorizing the town. Everyone's dying. The Predators are aware of the situation. They send a lone warrior, as the Predators always do, to go take care of the situation. And he's also like cleaning up any evidence of the Xenomorphs ever existing at the same time. But anyway, yeah, he's there. He's fighting the aliens. And then there's these two brothers and a bunch of like random local townspeople. And I say two brothers because like it's so ridiculous. Like if you've ever seen the Rick and Morty clip of just, I'm going to actually pull it up. I'm going to pull it up for you guys so you guys can actually see what I'm talking about. I'm just going to pull it up so you guys can see it, because this is what this entire freaking movie felt like to me. Because this movie is written by two brothers, and then it's about two brothers. So I'm just going to present my screen to you and show you this clip from Rick and Morty so you can understand what I'm talking about. Okay.
Coming this summer, two brothers in a van, and then a meteor hit, and they ran as fast as they could from giant cat monsters, and then a giant tornado came, and that's when things got
the movie
knocked into 12th gear.
That's literally the movie. Could you guys hear that? Could you guys hear the audio on that? It's just like two brothers, blah 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 blah. Two brothers. Like, give me a break. That was literally this entire movie. That was literally this entire stupid movie. Just these dumb brothers running around. Like, oh my god, yeah, it was really really bad, and it was somehow boring. Like there was so much happening, but it was so poorly edited that it was just like boring, dumb stuff happening. Military comes in, military gets screwed over by the Xenomorphs and stuff, and the Predator and the alien face off, dramatic battle, and then the government just blows everything up. The end of the movie literally ends with the government just blowing everything up, and then the military comes in and blows up the entire town, and everybody's dead except for the two brothers and their friends. And then the movie it's so dumb. I feel stupid even describing the movie. And then at the end of it, right at the end, you see Miss Yutani And this is hinting because in the movie, in Alien vs Predator 1, they only mention Weyland Corp, and at the end of this one, you have Miss Yutani getting the Predator weapon, so she's like half of Weyland Yutani. She's half of that organization. So Weyland Yutani. So they're hinting at the merger. So that's Alien versus Predator and Alien versus Predator 2. First one is just a bad, dumb movie. The second one is so bad. Oh my God, the second one's awful. The second one's terrible. The second one is terrible. I did have some best moments, though, just so I could give it some best moments. So Lovecraft references at the Mountains of Madness in the first one are cool. The Lex and the Predator team up in the first one is kind of cool. Cool. The final scene in the first Alien versus Predator is kind of cool. I loved in the second one where the dumb girlfriend gets suddenly killed by the alien, like out of nowhere, because like the whole movie he's just like, my stupid girlfriend, and then she just suddenly gets killed, and it's so funny because I was like, yes, like sick of, because it was the movie, the entire movie had such a dumb like 2005 horror movie cast, and like I was so happy when that dumb bland girlfriend character got killed, and I was like, yes. And then there was a cool scene, I will say, in the second one where the Predalien has the ability to like impregnate people directly with the Xenomorphs, and then like they can just all pop out at once. So like this woman's like stomach explodes with like a bunch of Xenomorphs. So that was kind of cool, but it's like you wade through so much garbage to find anything cool in Alien versus Predator 2. Bad movie all the way around. Sorry about it. So all right, so now I'm looking at the chat. What do you guys think about Alien versus Predator and Alien versus Predator 2? What are you guys' take on these two additions to the franchise? What do you guys think about it? Garbage. It sucks so hard. 0. 2. -1. Yeah. Someone says I kind of hate both AVP movies equally. 1 out of 10. Nightmare Fuel 4.1, 4.5, blah 2.5. It's not good. It's not good, especially that second one, because I feel like the first one has moments of enjoyment. The second one is like, God, can I get enough? I've got enough of these two brothers. I've got enough of the two brothers already. Please stop with the two brothers. The first one was dumb. I agree. Surgeon Slices. Wait, wrong chat. First one is dumb fun. The second one is just painful. Yes, that's a good description. That's a good description. Absolutely. Just painful. Very, very painful. Just throw it out of the airlock. Throw it right out of the airlock. Not good. And you know what's funny? I thought I remembered these movies as a kid, but like maybe I didn't, because like watching them again, I was like, I don't remember any of this. You know, it's not that they're not the type of movies that you like really retain anything that happened. Anyway, now that we're done going through this terrible garbage, it is time for us to get to the next movie in the franchise. Can you guess what the next film in the franchise is? Can you guess? So the next movie that we are going to recover, because we're heading right on in, we're getting closer and closer to my Romulus review. Going in order. Next movie we're going to do. This is a controversial movie as far as like how people feel about it. Prometheus. I know Covenant. I know Prometheus wasn't in the title. It's just because YouTube wouldn't let me like fit the whole thing in the title. So now we're going to talk about Prometheus. So Ridley Scott comes back to do Prometheus, right? Comes back to do Prometheus. And what I remember from around the time this movie was first coming out, I remember it floating around that this wasn't going to be an Alien prequel. I remember people saying like, this is not a direct Alien prequel, but it definitely is, but whatever. Anyway, so Prometheus, 2012, Ridley Scott. The story of Prometheus begins in the year 2093. So this is before the first Alien movie. So you got the spaceship Prometheus sent on a mission to a distant moon, LV-223. The mission is funded by Weyland Corporation. It's led by the elderly Peter Weyland, who hopes to find the origins of humanity, right? So the crew is led by archaeologist. You got Dr. Elizabeth Shaw. You've got Dr. Holloway. And they believe that the moon holds clues to the engineers. And the engineers are supposedly this advanced race of alien beings who might have created humanity. Now, it's a really cool premise and setup for a movie, right? It's a really cool idea. Upon arrival, they discover this massive structure, and it's full of all these strange artifacts, including these large stone heads and these cylinders containing this mysterious black goo, right? And as they explore, they begin to unravel all the secrets of the engineers. And this black goo is actually revealed to be this powerful and dangerous substance that can alter and mutate life into various different forms. One of the crew members is infected with this goo, and he later dies after like a really horrifying transformation. And then meanwhile, the android, David, because we've got another android appearing in this movie, of course, secretly carries out orders from Weyland, and he conducts his own experiments with the goo, including infecting Holloway to see the effects. And it turns him into like this mutant zombie kind of guy. But Shaw also gets infected. But she discovers that she's carrying like this rapidly growing alien creature that kind of looks like a xenomorph, kind of looks like something else, but it's a rapidly growing alien creature, and it's growing inside of her. And this leads to an incredibly cool. This is the thing about Prometheus. It has so many cool scenes. The med pod surgery scene in this movie is so cool. Can't deny it. It's just objectively cool, and it's grotesque and terrifying. So it leads to the super cool scene where she does self-surgery on herself using the med pod, and it kind of like throws the creature out of her. It's like, this doesn't belong, and it like throws it out. So the surviving members of the crew eventually realized that the engineers basically planned on wiping out humanity using the black goo, but their plans were derailed when the substance turned on them. In a desperate attempt to prevent the engineers from getting back to Earth and destroying Earth, which they still want to do, the ship's captain actually sacrifices the Prometheus by crashing it into the engineers' spacecraft. And the movie ends with Shaw and David, only survivors. Shaw is determined to find out why the engineers created humanity. She wants to know why they created humanity, and she wants to know why the flip did you decide to kill us after you created us. She wants to know the answers, and so it heavily hints at a sequel. And then right at the end of the movie, and I don't have a screen of it for some reason, right at the end of the movie, we see a creature emerging from the dead engineer's body, and that creature closely resembles the iconic xenomorph that we see in Alien and Aliens. It looks a little different, and we'll get into the exact differences. We'll get into all of the exact differences with all of the xenomorphs and all the different variants later. I've got it all laid out, but it looks very similar. So it begins to link this movie to Alien. So we see the xenomorph or something like a xenomorph for the very first time in that final scene. All right. So like I said, this movie is Ridley Scott's return to the Alien series. And this is a very likable movie. It's got so many cool ideas, right? The engineers were a cool idea. But there's certain things about this movie that, since it is clearly supposed to be in the same timeline, there are some problems, right? There are some canonical problems when trying to connect this movie directly to the Alien movies. For one, and I really noticed this, like rewatching the first Alien, the engineer sleep pod looks very different from what we see in the Alien movie, right? The engineer sleep pod in the first Alien movie is clearly a dead creature's rotting body. And it does not really look that, it looks similar, but it doesn't look totally comparable to what we see in Prometheus. So that's just one thing. There's some weird behavior from characters in this movie, some weird decisions that characters make in this movie, like the scientists act super carelessly, like while being on like an alien world, for instance. Like they act and behave a little weirdly. There's a lot of little things that are bothersome about this movie. There are a lot of little things, but I think in general this is such a likable movie. It has a lot of good ideas, and I think weirdly enough, one of the biggest problems with this movie is the fact that it is focused, I think, too much on being an Alien prequel. I think it's focused too much on being an Alien prequel and not enough on being a cool movie about these engineer aliens. Because I feel like the whole movie is focused on trying to tie it in to to everything else. Like there's all these little things that are meant to tie it in. When I wish that they really could have focused on the idea of the engineers and what they wanted and why they did what they did. But I feel like that's not really the focus of the movie, and I think that is super frustrating. So that's why this movie, you'll see we're going to do a ranking at the end, but this movie probably would be higher in my rankings if it followed through with the ideas that it set up. And I think it's a little bit disappointing that it doesn't. And, Covenant, like I said, is the direct sequel to this, and we'll get right into Covenant. But Covenant makes some of the same mistakes, but we'll get into those. But let's talk about Prometheus' best moments and things. All right, so Prometheus. Opening scene. The opening scene. Oh, with the engineer seeding Earth. Ancient astronaut theory. Linked in the description of this video, of this stream right now. You can check it out. There's a podcast episode from Cosmic Chronicles where we talk about Prometheus and we talk about ancient astronaut theory and the ideas that Ridley Scott was kind of playing with here. And all of these ideas are so freaking cool. H.P. Lovecraft at the Mountains of Madness, it's all tied into this, the idea that life on Earth was seeded by alien beings from another world. I think that is one of the coolest concepts that exist. So lit scene. It's badass scene. It's cool. Just and too we really discussed this in the podcast as to what we think might be going on here, because this particular individual in the beginning of the movie is sacrificing themselves, but they are becoming the basis for human life itself. All human life supposedly derived from this guy here. So yeah, super cool scene. There's also a lot of deleted scenes, and I highly recommend getting this movie on Blu-ray where you can watch all the deleted scenes, because there's some cool deleted scenes. For instance, the engineer awakening scene is longer. There's a part where Weyland asks for immortal life. There's just cooler moments in the deleted scenes. I highly recommend them. Yeah, the engineer awakening scene in particular. So that's good. Like I said, the surgery scene was cool. Probably like my favorite scene in the whole movie, honestly. So that surgery scene is freaking epic. The birth of Deacon was cool, tying it all in, that's fine. The movie is shot well. The movie is really nice to look at, I would say. The CGI is pretty good. But yeah, like I said, the movie in general, even though I really do like it, even though I think it's a very likable movie, something about it leaves things to be desired. And that was supposed to be the vacuum that Alien Covenant filled. That was supposed to be what Alien Covenant was supposed to step in and finish for us, like these ideas that are introduced in this movie. But does Alien Covenant do that? I guess we'll find out. But first, how do you guys feel about Prometheus? What are you guys' ratings on Prometheus? Let me hear it before we get into Alien Covenant. And then after Alien Covenant, we're moving right into Romulus. I'm so excited to talk about Romulus. I'm so excited. So we got a 5, 7 out of 10, 2 out of 10, 7 or 8 out of 10, 8.5, 8, 6 to 7. I feel like these are pretty fair ratings. Jack Jensen says it's underrated. I do think people tend to be harsh on this movie. But I think a lot of the reasons that people are harsh on this movie are valid, because like I said, the movie doesn't really follow through on its own ideas, which is disappointing. It has those cool ideas, but it doesn't necessarily follow through on them. But maybe Alien Covenant does, but I guess that's what we're about to talk about. Yeah, well, obviously, and I should have probably mentioned this in my best moments, Michael Fassbender as David is just freaking awesome. He's super cool. The Alien franchise is full of really cool aliens. I mean, not aliens. The Alien franchise is cool of the Alien franchise is full of really cool androids. And, David is one of the coolest ones that we see. All right. Let's get into the next movie in the franchise. Can you guess what it is? Alien Covenant. Okay. This is from 2017. And I got to say, I was very, 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 very excited for this movie. And I when it came out, I was so excited for everything. I was so excited for Alien Covenant. I was like, yeah. Sequel to Prometheus, allegedly. Yeah. Anyway, let's pull back a little bit. Anyway, Alien Covenant, 2017. It's a direct sequel to Prometheus. Ridley Scott comes back, allegedly a direct sequel. It continues to explore the origins of the Xenomorphs and starts to tie it together like even more. It connects it more directly to the Alien series. So this film is set in 2104. I think it's like 10 years after the last one, or about 10 years. And it follows the crew of the colony ship Covenant. So if you've seen any of the previous movies, you know that Weyland Yutani, they have colonies. They seed colonies all over the galaxy or whatever. So yeah, the Covenant is a colony ship. And it is Weyland Yutani now. So this is, by the time we get to Alien Covenant, we're Weyland Yutani. Prometheus, we've got Weyland Corp. So it's pre the merger. And then Alien Covenant, we got Weyland Yutani. So post-merger. So we're getting closer to the Alien universe. Okay. So the Covenant's mission is to, seed human life on another planet. So the crew and its captain are awakened from cryosleep when the ship is damaged by some kind of anomaly. While repairing the ship, they get like a distress signal from a seemingly habitable planet, and they go to investigate. Oh, and also, Walter is there. I love Walter. Walter is an updated version of David from Prometheus. He's like less human. He's kind of more nice. He follows Asimov's laws of robotics. So he's a different kind of android. He's not like mean. He doesn't have the mean streak that David has. Anyway, so they receive the transmission while preparing the ship, and they go to this habitable planet to investigate. And at first glance, it's a very quiet world. It's eerily quiet, in fact. It's lush. They explore it. They find the remnants of the engineer civilization. So something bad happened here. And they learn when they are attacked. They also, let me go back a little bit. I'm getting ahead of myself. They also find the ship from Prometheus. So the ship from Prometheus that takes off at the end is here. They do find that ship. But they eventually find out what happened when they get attacked by a new creature, a new terrifying creature called a neomorph. And we'll get into the neomorphs and all of the variants of the xenomorph later. But this is a new creature known as a neomorph. And it's very similar to a xenomorph, except it's got more primitive characteristics. It's a more primitive version of the xenomorph, I would say. And during all of this chaos, because they're attacked by the neomorph, which bursts out of somebody's body, they meet David, the android from Prometheus, and he's still on this world, and he's back together. He's put himself back together, and he's been here for years. And he claims to have survived the crash of the engineer ship that killed Shaw, but it soon becomes pretty clear that David has his own plans, and he's actually been using the black goo from Prometheus to create and refine the xenomorphs. So I think that is one of the main things in this movie. The xenomorphs that we see in Alien and Aliens, we wouldn't have them if not for the work of this android, David. David is the one that got the xenomorphs to where they are in Alien and Aliens. So that's interesting to know. That's an interesting thing to note. Okay, let's see, where were we? All right. So David essentially sees these xenomorphs as his masterpiece. He's obsessed with creation and destruction. He thinks he's essentially a god. He has a god complex, seriously. And he wants to continue his experiments, but he's missing a key ingredient, and the ingredient is, of course, host. So he needs host, and now that these people are here, he has host, so he can continue his experiments. And this leads to the creation of the protomorph. Now, the protomorph in Alien Covenant is the most direct precursor to the xenomorph that we see. This is the closest thing that we see to the xenomorph in Alien and Aliens in this part of the franchise, in the modern movies. This is the closest thing that we see so far. So there's a huge showdown with the protomorph. They fight it off. Yeah, they fight off the protomorph, and they think they've gotten away. But of course, David has taken the place of their android Walter. And, you know, David has his own plans as they're heading off to the colony, and he regurgitates up 2 little face hugger eggs, and he puts them into cryo sleep, and he's got big plans for the future. All right. So, yeah, that's this movie. So David's going to continue his experiments on board that ship, and he's going to continue his experiments when they get to the colony, I guess. Okay, the problem with this movie, let's just get right into it. The problem with this movie is that it's set up to be a sequel to Prometheus, but it's just not. It's just not, right? Shaw is again like reminiscent of Alien 3, dead off screen. The whole of the engineer world dead off screen. I'm like, did any of the engineers survive too? Did any of the engineers on this world survive David? They had no way to survive at all. Really weird. So we don't get an answer to the main questions that are placed at the end of Prometheus, which is like why they created us in the first place, why they wanted to destroy us. We get no answers whatsoever. All we get is like a B-list alien movie that takes place on this planet. That's what we get. It's got some cool creatures. It's got some good CGI, some good creatures. It's got some good lore elements. But it is not a sequel to Prometheus in the way that we wanted it to be at all. And it's not satisfying. It's just not a satisfying movie. And I was very, 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 very let down by this movie the first time I saw it. And I was again let down by it when I saw it, when I rewatched it recently. Side note, the characters are so selfish and bad to the point of being borderline evil, right? So when the first guy comes into the ship and the one girl is like, help me, help me get him on the ship. The medical officer's just staring. And then when he starts to convulse, the medical officer locks him and the other girl in the room and doesn't let her out. Doesn't give her a chance to escape. And she's like, oh, I've got to contain it. You just got sprayed in the face with his blood. So like if you're trying to contain something, you're sprayed in the face with blood. You should assume you're already infected. So why can't she leave? So it was pretty much borderline evil that she like locked her in the room with the guy that was convulsing and about to give birth to like the face hugger. That was a little annoying. And then her husband risking the colony ship of over 2,000 colonists just so he can save his wife was pretty cringe. Like, so if I'm the pilot of this colony ship with 2,000 colonists, and you guys have chosen to dangerously go down to the surface of this planet to investigate a distress signal, fine. You guys have gone on this away mission. You've taken the risk. If something goes wrong, I'm not risking 2,000 colonists for 15 people on the surface. I'm not risking the 2,000 sleeping colonists for 15 people on the surface. And it was just like so ridiculous that he flew into the storm. Like, it's kind of evil. It's kind of evil that you risked everybody's life to do that. And now we're fucked. Now the whole colony's screwed because now David's on board and now the face huggers are on board. You screwed everybody. You screwed everybody by doing this. So I just the characters were just God, they were insufferable. The main girl wasn't too insufferable, I guess, but she was just bland. I think this movie needed to cook It needed another rewrite with the script. It needed to cook more. It just really bummed me out when I watched this movie the first time, and it bummed me out watching it again. But let's see. I did have some best moments. I still got some best. There was still some things to like about it. So great opening scene. Yet again, the opening scene, David and Weyland, where you have David immediately already recognizing that he's better than humans, or immediately already seeing that, thinking that he's better, like that the line where he says, "You will die and I will not." You know, he already recognizes that he's better. So that opening scene between David and Weyland, really cool. Walter and David had a cool dynamic to me that reminded me of Data and lore in Star Trek The Next Generation. So if you know anything about Star Trek The Next Generation, then you know that our resident android Data has an older brother named Lore who is evil. And Lore was created with too much emotion. He was created too human. And so when Dr. Union Sung created Data, he made Data less human. He made Data without emotions. And it's the exact same thing with David versus Walter. David is too human. David is too emotional. So he's Lore. And then you got Walter is David. So I thought that was just like a cool Star Trek reference. And I'm pretty sure that's a Star Trek reference. There's a lot of Star Trek references in this. So yeah. And the last thing that I will say that I liked about Alien Covenant, Neomorph looks cool. No, that's the white Xenomorph. And also the Protomorph looked cool. But in general, Covenant, I think the reason that I really didn't like this movie that much is because of the fact that it was such a bummer. It's such a tease. Like, I feel like at the end of Prometheus, you think, oh, the sequel is going to give us the answers. And then we get the sequel and it gives us nothing. It gives us nothing. So it's a little annoying. What do you guys think of Alien Covenant? What is you guys' rating for Alien Covenant? Out of 10. What's you guys' rating? What did you guys think of it? For me, I feel like most of the Alien movies, it's got some things to like, but in general, it was a miss for me. It was a miss for me, and it because of how it's deflating for me, in my opinion. So we got a 10 out of 10, we got a 4 out of 10, 5, 3 out of 10, 6, 5 out of 10, got a meh, 8 out of 10, 7 out of 10, 10 out of 10. So some people like Covenant, and I can see people liking it. I see there's reasons to like things about it. James Dahl Music says yawn. Yeah. I think Covenant could have been better. See, that's my thing is, I love the Alien franchise, and I think Covenant could have been so much better. Like a sequel to Prometheus. I mean, come on. You know, the legendary sequel that we were waiting for so long, and then this is what we get. You know, I think it's a combination of the fact that I was waiting so long for it, and the combination of the fact that it just doesn't deliver. I feel like Prometheus already didn't deliver. So for this movie to be effective and feel really good, it needed to really deliver, but instead it definitely underdelivered. It overpromised, underdelivered. But I do agree, Fassbender definitely carries the prequels. He carried them. Okay. I think the time has come. I'm so excited to talk about Alien Romulus. So, Alien Romulus. Let's talk about it. So we're gonna do like just a little bit of me telling you what I think about the movie before we get into spoiler territory. And I hope that is okay. Okay. I hope that is okay. So thank you for the super chat. Let me real quick. Let me just check to see if I got super chats. So someone says, have you seen the Covenant scene with Shaw dissected? I have not. Someone says, is Predator 2 on an Alien film because of the skull? I don't think so. I don't remember Predator 2, if I'm being honest. But you know, I would have to see it again. And Thank you for your super chat. Great show as always. Thank you for joining us. All right, let's get to the Romulus review. All right. So in Romulus, you've got the main character, a girl named Rain, and she is serving out her contract on a mining colony owned by Weyland Yutani. Her parents have died like 3 cycles ago, I think, so like 3 years ago or something like that. I think so. Her parents, her entire family, and her entire friend group is on this mining colony that is owned by Weyland Yutani. They're essentially slaves or indentured servants almost. It's very hostile, and it definitely highlighted the greed of Weyland Yutani Corp. It definitely expands like your idea of them. You see how, you know what I mean? Because you have a greedy corporation. You know, let me just stop. You have this idea that, you know, big corporations or whatever are going to fund space travel and fund, you know, colonization of other worlds. But this movie in particular, Alien Romulus, this is what that would look like. If you have these giant corporations, they're not going to care about people. They're not going to care if you live or die. So on this mining colony, it's very dangerous. People die all the time. People get sick all the time. The colony gets 0 hours of sunlight per year. 0. It's 65 light years away from Earth. And in the beginning of the movie, she basically learns that her contract time has been doubled. So she's got to spend like double the amount of time on there. And so all this is happening. And she basically decides to join a team of old friends along with her brother, who is an android, a damaged android named Andy. And yeah, they're going to fly off to this derelict space station that has drifted into orbit above this planet called the Renaissance. And the Renaissance is split into 2 halves. It's the Romulus and the Remus. And, you know, it is a Weyland Yutani craft. And the reason they need her brother Andy is because he's a Weyland android and he can actually enter it. He has access to the systems or whatever. And so they're here because they want to steal cryopods. And with these cryopods, they can escape this horrible life on this mining colony and get to a non-Weyland Yutani system called Yigaba. I think they called it. I can't remember. I think it's called Yigaba. I think they pronounce it Yigaba. So it's a non-Weyland Yutani, a non-Weyland Yutani system. So that's what they want to do. They want to get these escape pods so they can get out and escape the horrible life that they're living on this mining colony. But of course, aboard the Renaissance, things go horribly wrong. And of course, xenomorphs are unleashed. Now, before we get into the really spoiler territory, I just want to say, for anyone that doesn't want to be spoiled, but wants to know whether or not I like this movie or not, I really liked this movie. I really, really liked this movie. I thought it was so good. I was gripped from beginning to end. I really appreciated how it expanded on the lore of the Alien universe. I really appreciated how it tied all sorts of things in from the previous movies. I loved how it fit right in with the aesthetic of especially the older Alien movies, especially that first one. I thought it had really good tension. I thought it was a return to form. I loved the horror elements of this movie. This movie had some of the best horror elements in any Alien movie in the entire franchise. I really, really enjoyed it. And it even had, you know, I don't want to spoil anything, but it had every element that there is to like about an Alien movie. And it did do the fan service thing. It did do the play on your nostalgia thing a little bit. But I think that this was one of the most effective things that has done that in recent memory, right? So some things do the nostalgia thing and it feels cheap. Somehow this movie did do the nostalgia callbacks and it did do the fan service, but it didn't feel cheap. It worked almost every single time. Practical effects galore, just a really good theater experience. And also, I saw this movie in D-Box in XD, so the seats kind of like rumble and shake. So it like really added the seats will kind of like move and sway with the ship and rumble and shake. So it really added something to. It really added something, I think, to the movie experience. It was a great theater experience. So if you're on the edge and you're wondering if you should see it, if you're wondering if you should waste time and money going to see Romulus, go see it. Go see it. There you go. So that is the non-spoiler section. Because it's really hard to talk about this without spoiling. So we're going to get into spoilers for Romulus. So if you don't want to be spoiled, if you don't want to be spoiled or spoilered, get on out of here, because we're about to get into it. Because there are some surprises in this movie. It's a lot of fun. I know some people don't care about spoilers and it doesn't bother them, but let's get to it. It's definitely worth seeing in theaters. So basically, like I said, they are on board the Romulus. They're from this mining colony. They get on this ship because they want to get the escape pods. And you've got Rain and her brother, the android Andy, who is damaged. He's a damaged android. But when they get on the ship, they discover that the fuel pods, that the sleep pods don't have the fuel that they need. The sleep pods do not have the fuel. So they go searching on other places on the ship to see if they can find the fuel. And they do find the fuel. But the place that they take the fuel from is on the cryo tanks that are keeping the face huggers asleep. So by taking out the fuel, they compromise it and they unleash all of these face huggers. And it's really intense. Also on board this ship, yeah, the face huggers in this movie are really, really intense, by the way. Also on board this ship, we get Rook. Who is the science officer of he's a science officer on the Renaissance, and he is a similar model to Ash that we see in the first movie. So yeah, he is a Weyland Yutani robot. He is damaged and he serves the will of the company. There is a part in this movie where they take out his chip and they give it to Andy, and it makes Andy like smart, and Andy's like super cool and smart. By the way, Andy, one of the best parts of this movie, but let's get on with it. Rook basically tells them what has gone on this ship, basically. And what has happened is Weyland Yutani, ever since Ripley shot that xenomorph out of the hatch in the first movie, ever since, they've been looking for it. They had been looking for that xenomorph that she shot. And in the beginning of the movie, they find that xenomorph. They find it. And it basically, they start cloning it. They start trying to breed it, and it wreaks havoc on the ship. So they find it's the same xenomorph that they find from the first Alien movie. At least I think that's what they were getting at. I'm pretty sure that's what was said in the movie, that it was the same xenomorph from the first one, which is really cool. So it wreaks havoc upon the ship, and Rook by himself attempted to repair the ship, but it was too late. So that's why we see the Renaissance space station kind of like drifting into like this mining colony world, and it's actually falling into the world, right? They've got like 36 hours before it falls into the world, and it's like destroyed by the atmosphere or whatever. So that's why it's here, because of course Weyland Yutani, trying to mess with the xenomorphs again, got screwed over. But Rook has also been doing other stuff on this vessel, and this is kind of reminiscent of David in Alien Covenant and in Prometheus. He's been doing his own experiments, and Rook he claims that he's managed to isolate this black goo substance. So he's isolated the black goo substance from the xenomorphs, the black goo substance that we first see in Prometheus, and we'll get more detail into this in just a second. But he claims to have isolated the part of the black goo that slows the xenomorph's metabolism and the part of it that allows it to regenerate. So he's isolated it, and he thinks that this is going to perfect humanity. It's like it's going to perfect humanity. Spoiler alert, it does not. So at the end of the movie, one character injects themselves with the black goo, right? And it does not go well. And I'm pretty sure, tell me if I'm wrong. I've only seen the movie once, but I'm pretty sure I heard Rook refer to the black goo substance as Prometheus 5. I could have heard that wrong. He could have said something like the Prometheus Files or something, but I thought I heard him call it the Prometheus 5, this version of the black goo. So the girl injects herself with the black goo because she thinks that it's going to heal her and fix her injuries. But instead, instead of it healing her and fixing her injuries, she gives birth to the most terrifying creature I have ever seen in my freaking life. And I was not expecting it. I was expecting some kind of final like moment in the movie, because they always do the final thing where they got to fight it one last time. It's been a staple of the franchise's entire time. But the thing that she gives birth to, we saw the newborn from Alien Resurrection. It's not like it's this thing is kind of like, it looks like an engineer. It's super tall and skinny, because I don't have any pictures of it. There's no pictures of it anywhere online. I looked. I tried to find pictures for the stream. I can't find pictures. But I'm calling it in my mind right now, I'm calling it the engineer morph because of what it looked like. It was this tall, skinny, engineer-looking thing that had like a tail like a xenomorph and kind of feet like a xenomorph, and it was extremely fast and quick, and it had a very human-looking face, which was very disturbing. The human, because you could see it, you could kind of see what it was feeling and thinking at any point in time. It was very tall and creepy, and it like kind of crawled around. That thing freaked me out. That was good. So I was wondering in what way they would like escalate it and make it like, oh yeah, the tongue. So yeah, this thing is very different from the newborn. Like, it does not have, because the newborn in Alien Resurrection is kind of like it's grotesque, but it kind of has a compassionate face. It kind of has compassionate eyes. This thing is evil. This engineer morph thing is pure evil, and it loves what it's doing. And it doesn't love its mom, and immediately starts like feeding on her and sucking out her blood. Oh God, that thing was creepy. So 2 thumbs up for that creature design. That thing freaked me out. So at the end of the movie, in a callback to the previous movies, Rain, she sucks the creature out of the airlock, and she actually does this in a similar way to Alien Resurrection, where she uses like the acid blood that burns a hole and it gets sucked out. But this time it's even more intense, because she almost gets sucked out herself, and it's like, wow, is she just gonna fly out into outer space? So she almost gets sucked out herself, but she manages to get the creature sucked out. And the movie ends with Rain. She's taken the chip out of her brother Andy, because the chip that also made him intelligent also gave him a new directive, which was to do what was best for Weyland Yutani. So she's taken the chip out at this point, but he's still damaged. So she promises that she will fix him. He's in his cryopod. She goes into her cryopod, and they're headed to the Yagaba system. And the Yagaba system is actually is a non-Weyland Yutani system. So this is a system that actually doesn't allow androids. And so she promises to fix them, and the movie ends just like Alien, where her saying she's the only survivor of this incident. I really hope that there's going to be a sequel. Can we just say that? I really, really hope that there's going to be a sequel, because they set it up perfectly for a sequel. I loved Andy. I loved Rain. I loved the references. The look of the movie was great. The characters were super cool. Let's get into it. Let's get into it. So Alien Romulus. Like I said, it referenced multiple movies. We had the the iconic "Stay away from her, you bitch" line at the end, but it was delivered by Andy in a super awkward way that just made it so funny and endearing. Andy, in my opinion, is the most endearing android of the entire series. I really liked Andy. So highlight of the movie for me was Andy, especially when he got the chip and he got really smart and he was just like getting stuff done. Yeah, it was a little silly. It was a little bit of a silly callback, but what was funny about it, Cyboth, even though the "stay away from her" line was a little silly, it was funny because the android almost said it in a way where it was like he felt awkward saying it. So it just made it work. I loved Rain holding the gun. I loved the tank top. She was looking like Ripley a bunch of times. There's a scene to me that's very reminiscent of Aliens, where she's just like shooting up all the xenomorphs. She's like shooting them all up. And it was really cool because what happens is she turns off the gravity. And so she's shooting them all up. And so all the blood is just floating. And then her and Andy in zero gravity have to maneuver through all of the acid blood, while at the same time, the gravity has to recycle itself every now and again. So it has to come back on suddenly. So it's going to turn back on, and they don't really know when. So it's very, very tense, like maneuvering through the acid blood and trying to get it. It's just so intense. There's so many really intense things about this movie. One intense moment is when the xenomorph is being born and it's coming out of the cocoon, and the one character is trying to get out and she can't get out. It's so good. It was just brilliant. Let me go to my best thing. So I just have what I like. So Andy the android, I already said it. I loved him more than even Walter and Bishop. I feel like Andy killed it. The actor killed it. Favorite android, the entire series. I'm calling it. Incredible tension. Just the balance of horror. It's just like the perfect balance of tension and horror, and a little bit of that aliens sci-fi schlock thrown in. The right amount of references, the right amount of expansion of the lore. I really loved the look of the Romulus and the Remus. I don't know if I explained. The Renaissance is the station, but it's like split into two halves on the inside, the Remus and the Romulus. I really loved the way it looked. It was obviously trying to be reminiscent of the original movies, right? It was obviously trying to look as close to that original movie as possible, and they really nailed it. It was very effective. It was very effective. Yeah, all of the elements and references, like I said, remain fresh. And then I really enjoyed the expansion on the greed of Weyland Corp, because they want those xenomorphs no matter what. And again, you see that the Rook robot, right? He's damaged, but he's still programmed to do what's best for the company. So at any point in time, he's not helping them out if it's not going to help out the company. So he's there, but he's doing what's best for the company. So it shows that this company really doesn't give a crap about human life. Like, they don't care who dies if they can make a profit. And I enjoyed learning about the Jackson mining colony and what life is like there, because this could potentially be our future. I feel like a lot of people are looking to billionaires and corporations to send us out into outer space. But like I said, I think this would be the future if that happens. You're gonna have for-profit corporations that don't care about human life. And if there was an alien species that they could weaponize and make a profit out of it, even if they risked all of humanity's existence, they would still do it. So yeah. Also, the face huggers in this movie. The face huggers in this movie are so intense, because there's just a lot of them. There's just a lot of them everywhere, and it's just really they're really creepy. And there's also a really intense scene in this movie where they raise the temperature in the ship, right? They raise the temperature because we learn that the face huggers recognize where you are based off of your heat signature, and they also can sense stress. So there is a scene where they raise the temperature because they have to walk through a room where there's a bunch of face huggers, and so they're trying to be quiet and walking through slowly. But at the same time, one of the character's sister is on another part of the ship, and she's in extreme danger. So that's happening at the same time, and so he's trying to talk to his sister at the same time while it's happening, and it's getting intense, and the face huggers are waking up, and it's just it's so good. The director of this, phenomenal. So yeah, Alien Romulus. If you haven't seen it, what are you doing? Go see it. I feel like this absolutely should be supported. It is one of the best additions to the Alien franchise. And yeah, so we are going to get to the next part of this, where we compare all of the movies, because these movies have a lot of things that are comparable. They all have things that are unique about them. So now we're going to compare all the Alien movies. Let's do it. Let's compare the Alien movies. Let's compare them. Let's do it. Let's do all of them. And let's start with the androids. So there's an android in just about every movie. There's no android in the Alien versus Predator movies, but in just about every movie, there's an android, right? So in Aliens, we have Ash. And, you know, Ash is the one that turns out to be kind of evil because he's serving the company and he's putting the company over the crew's safety. We got Bishop in Aliens, and Bishop is cool because he's an Asimov robot. So Bishop is like, he follows the like Asimov's rules of robotics. And I think they even say that. They don't use the word Asimov's rules of robotics, but he says the rules. Bishop was cool. And then in Alien 3, we get the return of Bishop. And then we got Alien Resurrection. We've got Call. Call is not my favorite android in the whole series. She was fine. I mean, I feel like her character wasn't really super explored. And then, of course, we've got David from Prometheus. David from Prometheus, I think, is one of the most interesting androids that we see in the series. And I think I think he's up until that point was the most interesting android. I really like David. I think what makes David super complex is the fact that he actually is a lot more human than he thinks he is, right? He thinks he's got so much arrogance. He thinks that he's so much better than people. But I feel like the fact that he is so arrogant is a human trait. Like that's a human trait. He's got more human traits than he thinks he does. And I think that the reason that David kind of hates humans so much is because he sees himself in humanity. And I feel like that's what it is. And then you got Walter from Alien Covenant. And like I said, Walter is just so endearing. I really love Walter. I think Walter is he reminds me so much of Data from Star Trek Next Generation, and I love Data, so I love Walter. And then we've got Rook in Alien Romulus. I was so happy to see this character return. Like I was not. It's not the same character, but he's essentially Ash, but like I said, he's a different model. It was very nice to see Rook. I think a cool broken robot that serves the interests of Weyland Corp. It was just cool. And then of course Andy from Romulus. Andy's really cool because usually when we see like the androids are like all smart, but Andy's not a smart android initially, right? He's damaged, so he's kind of like simple-minded, and then he gets upgraded partway through the movie, and that is it's really epic when he gets upgraded and he's super badass. But even without the upgrades, he's just such an endearing guy. And his primary directive is to take care of Rain and do what's best for them. And then that directive gets updated at the end of the movie, of course, to do what's best for both of them. So I thought that was really good. I really enjoyed the dynamic between Andy and Rain. I feel like it was the best dynamic between an android and a human that we've seen in these movies so far. I just really enjoyed the character. I enjoyed the actor. And that actor, I've never seen him in anything else, but I hope he gets more accolades because he is phenomenal. He ate the role. He ate it up. I followed him on Twitter. He's just phenomenal. So Andy, top android for me. So those are the androids. And the androids are a staple of the series. Can't do an alien movie without the androids at this point. We've got quite a few people watching. Hit the like button if you've been enjoying the stream so far. Hit the like button. It really helps out with the YouTube algorithm and all that jazz. So please hit the like button. Okay. Now. The moment you've all been waiting for. We're going to talk about these Xenomorphs. Because the Xenomorphs are different in every movie. The Xenomorphs are always a little bit different. So we're going to go through these Xenomorphs. We're going to talk about these Xenomorphs. We're going to talk about what makes them unique. We're going to talk about how they portray them in all these movies, because every movie has like a little slightly different way of going about how they show the Xenomorph and how they do them. So the original Alien movie, the Xenomorph was portrayed by a guy in a suit. And this guy's name was Bolaji Badejo. And this starts a tradition where, you have guys in suits playing the Xenomorphs. And this continues for a very, very long time, right? And, the original actor was just cast because he was slender and he was slender and tall, and he had a suit that was designed specifically for him, right? And so, like I said, this starts a tradition where they have guys in suits for the Xenomorph. So in the first movie, the nature of the Xenomorph it's highly aggressive. It's a lethal creature. It's driven seemingly by pure instinct, and that is instinct to kill and survive. And it also exhibits a high level of intelligence where hunting and evasion are concerned, because it's evading them throughout the movie and like picking them off one by one. As far as it's biology, right? It has like this kind of biomechanical appearance. And this is H.R. Giger all the way. He loved like the biomechanical look. So that's what we mainly see in this movie with the look of the xenomorph, and it looks really cool. It's an iconic look that has survived the test of time, right? It also has acidic blood that can melt through metal, and it's also incredibly fast, strong, resilient, and it has the iconic inner set of jaws that can be extended to deliver a fatal blow, the tiny mouth. Now, in the first movie, we know that the life cycle begins with an egg, but we don't know where the eggs come from in the first movie. We just know that the egg contains a face hugger, and that when a potential host nears the face hugger, emerges from the egg. So and it latches onto the host's face, and it implants the embryo, and then later the chest burster comes out, rapidly grows into the adult xenomorph, which is ready to kill and hunt. So that is the xenomorph we see in the original Alien movie. And then by the time we get to Aliens, we've got Tom Woodruff taking over as the main xenomorph, right? So we continue this tradition of people in suits playing the xenomorphs. So also in this movie, you got puppetry and animatronics also being used for the xenomorphs. Particularly the Queen, I think, is an animatronic. So in this movie, the xenomorphs are essentially the same as the first movie, but this time they're shown to be part of a hierarchy with a queen leading them all. So in this movie, they're also way more numerous because they've taken over an entire colony and, you know, infected a lot more people. And in this movie, they act more akin to insects or bees, right? So the alien queen is like I said, the central figure in the xenomorph hierarchy. She's larger than the normal xenomorphs. She's more intelligent than the normal xenomorphs, and she's crucial because she lays the eggs that are, you know, she produces new offspring. You know, she also directs the hive's actions. They listen to the queen. They do what the queen does. Like at the end of Aliens, when Ripley threatens the eggs, the queen gets the other xenomorphs to back off. She's also fiercely protective of her brood, and she uses her strength and power to maintain control. Like, right, she's ensuring the survival of her species. Like at the end of Aliens, the queen comes up the elevator and follows Ripley because, one, she's pissed that Ripley like double crossed her, and two, you know, Ripley, this is the future of her species. She needs a host for her. Her children need host, so that's why she follows Ripley. She's way more intelligent. And like I said, the term xenomorph is also first used in Aliens 1986 as well. So that's when we got the first use of the term xenomorph. So then we get to Aliens 3. So Aliens 3 used a combination of actor in a suit. You got Tom Woodruff coming back again. And this time they used rod puppets for the xenomorph dog puppet. And like we mentioned earlier, some very early CGI for the runner xenomorph. And this early CGI does not look good. We've been there, done that. Yet the CGI doesn't look good. But the xenomorph in this film is like called the runner because it's a little bit different from the xenomorphs that we've seen previously. Like it reflects the host of the creature that it reflects the host that it came out of, essentially. So whereas these other xenomorphs came out of people, this xenomorph came out of, in the version that I watched, an ox, but I have heard there's another version where it actually comes out of a dog. I don't remember that version. I just remember the ox version, but it comes out of an ox, and so it's more animalistic, right? It's like a quadruped. It's more agile than the previous xenomorphs. It's got an increased level of aggression. I felt it was more aggressive and more angry in this one, and it also, they kind of dropped the more biomechanical aspects, right? It's smoother looking than the previous xenomorphs. It's got like a more organic, more streamlined look. The life cycle is the same, however, compared to the previous movies. The only difference this time is that the original xenomorph came out of an animal versus a human. And then we get to Alien Resurrection. So again, for this movie, we've got actors in suits coming back. We got Tom Woodruff coming back, reprising his role as the main xenomorph performer. And then we've got also CGI being used in some of these scenes, particularly the water scenes, I think, use CGI, but they don't look bad. It does not look bad. The CGI is miles above the third one. In this one, we've got some more differences popping up with the Xenomorphs. We've got because this time these Xenomorphs are cloned from the DNA of Ripley and the Queen, so they're kind of stronger and seemingly more intelligent, I think. Yeah, definitely more intelligent, because in Alien Resurrection, these Xenomorphs exhibit more cunning and coordination, right? They are able to escape their confinement by working together. They work together and escape confinement. The life cycle is mostly the same, but the cloning process threw some wrenches in the whole thing, because it results in hybrids, like the newborn. So the newborn, this is a unique creature. We've never seen this previously up until this point, and it is born directly from the Queen, because this version of the Queen does not lay eggs. This version of the Queen gives birth to a single child because she's mutated version of the Queen. And this is a mutant creature that combines kind of the features of the Xenomorph and the human together. So it definitely seems to be more emotionally complex, but it's also more disgusting. It's way more grotesque than the previous Xenomorphs. It's got like this really, really creepy, gross skull face. It's pretty disgusting. But yeah, this creature does not recognize the Queen that it was born from as its mother. In fact, it kills the Queen and recognizes Ripley as its mother. So there's that. It's a little bit different. So that's the newborn from Alien 4. Alien Resurrection. And then we get to Predator. Alien versus Predator, they use actors in suits again. We got Tom Woodruff coming back. Of course, CGI's in this movie. It's 2004. And this, like we mentioned earlier, the Xenomorphs were just like this is a totally different timeline, totally different rules for everything. Totally different rules for everything. The Xenomorphs in this movie are just kind of prey for the predators. They're meant to be hunted, but essentially the same exact biology. But then once you get to Alien versus Predator 2, then you've got some different things being introduced, right? So you got the Predalien, and the Predalien is one of those things that is like simultaneously the stupidest thing I've ever seen and simultaneously the most badass thing I've ever seen, like at the same time. Like it's simultaneously really, really stupid and also really cool. Like it's almost impossible to make up your mind. Oh, someone said that the newborn looks like Pumpkinhead, and that's totally true. So yeah, the Predalien is exactly what you think it is. It's like a combination of both species. It's got like the strength, and it's got like, I think it's stronger than a normal Xenomorph, stronger than a Predator. It's got the ability to implant people directly with Xenomorphs, which I think that's the main thing. It can implant you directly with a Xenomorph instead of like needing a queen that lays eggs. So it's a different life cycle altogether. So yeah, that's the Predalien. All right. Let's move on to Prometheus and Alien Covenant, because this is when it gets even more interesting, right? So while Prometheus doesn't feature the classic Xenomorph, the creatures that it does show, like the Deacon at the end, which is created using, they said it was created using a mix of practical effects and CGI, but it's obviously like super heavy on the CGI. CGI is obviously the emphasis here, especially compared to the previous movies. So you see the Deacon, which is kind of Xenomorph-like. And then in Covenant, you get like pretty much a complete shift towards CGI for the Xenomorphs. You got the Neomorph and the Protomorph, which are entirely CGI. And I think there are some practical effects in Covenant still, though. So in Prometheus and Alien Covenant, right, the Xenomorph-like creatures that you see are like Xenomorphs in an earlier stage of development, right? Like, so the Deacon and the other creatures from these movies, I think they're meant to show the origins of the Xenomorph. They're meant to show like what the Xenomorph was before it like developed into like what we see in Alien and Aliens. So they're early versions that are less refined, but they still show some deadly traits. All right, so let's talk about the black goo. So the black goo is a substance that is absolutely central to the creation of all of these creatures. It causes rapid mutation and evolution. The black goo was essentially the engineer's bioweapon, and it's capable of creating various forms of life. And it is actually what leads to the creation of like these xenomorph-like creatures. And there are various black goo variants. All right, so this is where it gets super interesting, right? So we got, okay. In Prometheus and in Alien Covenant, there are several creatures that like emerge as a part of this evolving life cycle of the xenomorph. So it's showing like I said, where the xenomorphs came from, like their origins. And the xenomorph in Covenant, especially the protomorph, is closer to the xenomorphs that we see in the original movies compared to like the Deacon from Prometheus. So I think that the creatures here, these are the actual origins of the xenomorph. Whatever we saw on Prometheus, the Deacon, I don't know where that creature is or what became of it, but the protomorph itself, I think that this is, I think, the great-grandfather of the actual xenomorph, right? Because it exhibits very similar characteristics, but it's slightly different. It's slightly different in appearance and behavior, right? Because it is an early version. So also the important thing to talk about here with the black goo variants is David, the android. He plays a key role in their creation. Like he manipulated the black goo to create these things. So like basically what Alien Covenant teaches us is that we wouldn't have like the xenomorph in its current form without David, because he produced it. So I don't know exactly how that ties in because they haven't given it to us, but that's essentially what it says. And the life cycle of these black goo variants is definitely different from the original life cycle of the xenomorphs. It is reminiscent. It's recognizable. It's more recognizable in Covenant because you see the eggs and you see the face hugger, but it is still more primitive. It's definitely a precursor. And then you have the neomorph. So this is another black goo variant, another version created from black goo. And it is also, it's an even more primitive version as opposed to the protomorph. So the neomorph is like the white one that's kind of skinny. It's more human-like. And it's got like different behavior, slightly different behavior, I would say. So there are all these different variants that come out of the black goo, and it was David that ultimately, I think, refined them into the xenomorph that we finally eventually see. So in Prometheus, we see like, we see like the hermiped in Prometheus, which is that like snake thing, which I think is like kind of like, this is the engineers, they were experimenting with these creations. So this is like a precursor to the face hugger. And then we also see the trilobite at the end of Prometheus that attacks the engineer. This is also just a different version of the face hugger, because that engineer that gets attacked with that trilobite eventually gives birth to the Deacon. So all of this, we're seeing the previous biological technology that led to the creation of the xenomorphs. So the xenomorphs aren't a natural creature. That's basically what all of the movies and the prequels tell us. The xenomorphs were never a naturally forming creature. The xenomorphs don't have a home planet. They were created biologically through use of black goo and other things. All right. And then we get to, of course, Romulus. Now, Romulus brings back the tradition of using actors to play the xenomorph. You've got a new actor coming in. You got Trevor Newland taking on the role. And in this movie, there's obviously a combination of CGI and practical effects. And I will get to the super chats in just a second. All right. So Romulus does have the xenomorphs that we saw in Alien and Aliens, because this is taking place in between Alien and Aliens, right? So we see basically the exact same xenomorph, but we also see a new kind of creature, as I mentioned earlier, called the engineer morph. Well, that's just what I'm calling it, the engineer morph. Like, it's another black goo variant that comes out of this specialized version of the black goo. It's tall like an engineer, fast like a xenomorph, and it also had genitalia, but it was like a cloaca. Like, to me, it looked like a cloaca in like some animals, like a bird or a snake. So this to me implies that this creature, this engineer morph, probably doesn't lay eggs. I think it probably gives birth itself or like impregnates someone. Like, I feel like it is not an egg layer, because like it was born from someone's body, I think that, you know, and just given the way it looked, I think that it probably gives birth itself, given the nature of how it was born and given the nature of how it looks. I would guess that it gives birth like a mammal. It doesn't need a queen to reproduce. Unlike the newborn, however, in Alien Resurrection, this thing is not nice. Like I said, it does not love its mother. The newborn in Alien Resurrection loves Ripley. It doesn't love its actual mother. It kills its actual mother, but it loves Ripley. It recognizes Ripley as mother. So when I saw the engineer morph in Romulus, I thought, oh, it's gonna love its mom, but it didn't. It immediately starts sucking her blood, and it's really, really creepy. So, like I said, I am really hoping they do a sequel. I'm really hoping they do a sequel to Alien Romulus. I think it's it's ready. I think they could do it. I think I'm willing to accept it. I don't know when they would set it, but I'm down for the sequel. I want to see more of Rain, and I want to see more of Andy. And hopefully we can find out more about the engineer morph was just really cool. I don't know if we're going to see another engineer morph anyway, because it seemed like kind of a unique thing that came out of that black goo, but who knows. Now we're going to talk a little bit about Weyland Yutani, because Weyland Yutani plays a role in each movie. In every single movie, they play a role. In every single movie, this corporation, they're behind everything. What are they all about? What are they doing, right? So in the first movie, as we said, they're just called the company. They don't have their name yet. And they're just this company that seems to be interested in space exploration and mining and research. All right. And in this movie, this company orders the Nostromo to investigate a distress signal that, and then they secretly prioritize the retrieval of the Xenomorph over the crew's safe return. So initially, all we have is just like the little hints of their greed. We know they prioritize, their profit over people. So we see that, but they're not like straight up super evil yet. They're doing pretty evil things, but they're not straight up super evil. And then by the time we get to Aliens, they're basically full on evil. You got Weyland Yutani now. They've got a name now. And they're referred to as a massive interstellar conglomerate involved in space exploration, colonization, and bioweapons. So bioweapons is the key, because that explains why they want the Xenomorph. So in Aliens, like I said, they disregard Ripley. They claim not to believe her, even though they know what happened. They definitely know what happened, because it's established in the later Alien movies that Weyland Corp always saw everything that was happening on their ship. So they definitely knew what was happening, but they choose to lie about it here. And when the colony goes dark, they send Ripley to the colony, because along with Burke, who wants to again collect a xenomorph specimen. They really want that xenomorph specimen for some reason, likely to create a bioweapon. And then we got Aliens. We got Alien 3. The company does appear in this movie right at the end. They want to retrieve Ripley, and they want to take the Xenomorph queen out of her, but Ripley, of course, sacrifices herself to keep them from getting it. But they definitely are in this movie, and we do see that, they have this whole, abandoned prison mining colony. So small role in that movie, but they are still present. And then in Alien Resurrection, it gets a little bit more interesting, I think, because at this point, it's 200 years in the future, and Weyland has been absorbed by the United States military. Not the United States military, the United Systems military, excuse me. So by this point in history, they maintain influence through the military. And, this is the organization that clones Ripley and, does all the xenomorph research and all of this stuff. So by this time, they're not actually Weyland. They're not actually Weyland Yutani anymore. They're just a military organization that has absorbed Weyland. So, and then we got Prometheus. In Prometheus, because Prometheus is a prequel, they aren't called Weyland Yutani yet. As I mentioned earlier, it's just Weyland Corp. And in this movie, we have Peter Weyland, who's super old, and Weyland Corp is a powerful technological conglomerate, and they fund the mission to the Prometheus planet, to the engineered planet, seeking the origins of humanity. But Weyland is actually just driven by his own personal quest for immortality. And this leads to obviously disastrous outcomes. So yeah, this is the beginning. This is the earliest, Weyland Corp causing havoc that we see. And then in Covenant, Weyland Corp continues to play a role. This is their ship. The Covenant is their ship. This is a Weyland Yutani mission. They're on a colonization mission. So yeah, that's the role in that movie. And then, of course, in Alien versus Predator, you have the alternate Weyland Corp, which is not connected. And then we see like at the end of AVP2, we see like the beginnings of Weyland Yutani forming in that alternate timeline. And then, of course, Alien Romulus, we have Weyland Yutani Corp making an appearance. And it seems as though we also in this movie, we get mention of non-Weyland systems too. So I hope that's something that they explore later. But yeah, in this movie, they are still a mega corporation. They continue their legacy of greed and just like callous disregard for human life. So yeah, they own the Jackson mining colony where they don't care about the people there, and they work in hazardous conditions that cause sickness. And they still got the insatiable pursuit of profit that I think is further highlighted by their just like relentless hunt for the Xenomorph that continues even in this movie. They want the Xenomorph. That's what they always want. They want the Xenomorph, and they don't care that it endangers countless lives. So yeah, their actions again in Romulus underscore their willingness to sacrifice human lives in their obsession with exploiting alien technology for profit. So that is Weyland Corp. So I feel like Weyland Corp and their whole thing is pretty consistent in all of the movies. I have not read any of the novels, but that'd be really interesting. So before we get to my ranking of all the movies, of which movies are the best, that is no doubt to piss off some people. Before we do that, we are going to get to the super chats that I missed. Okay. So let's see. So Matt said, weird mix between 1, 2, and 4, and I like it. Cool. Tim Esco says, I didn't get why it was more human and not a deacon. Okay, so you're talking about, I don't know, which one are you talking about? Are you talking about the engineer morph? Because I think that the reason that it was more human was because this was the compound that Rook had created, Prometheus 5, I guess it was called. That compound did specific things. He had altered it. So I think that's why it created what it created. Was it reminiscent of Species? Yeah, that's such a funny question, because I feel like definitely Species is heavily inspired by like the first 4 Alien movies. But then there are things in Alien Romulus and also AVP that are inspired by Species, I feel like, right? So in AVP 2, when you have like the pregnant woman that gives birth to all of the Xenomorphs, that's totally like in like Species 2, where you got the pregnant women's bellies busting open with aliens. And then the cocoon in Romulus totally reminded me of the alien cocoon in Species. But I personally feel like the Alien franchise is allowed to steal from Species as much as they want, considering how much the Species franchise borrowed from Alien, So, I mean, yeah. Here's a thanks to you for your great cyberpunk novel breakdown and reviews. Thank you. Thank you so much for your super chat. Come on, the Black Goo again. You kidding me? Yeah, but it was a cooler version of the Black Goo, I would say. The Xenomorph is much scarier if it's a random thing from space and not the key to all or life or whatever. Also, the CGI in Romulus was terrible. I personally didn't think the CGI was that bad. I enjoyed. Maybe I didn't notice it because there was a lot of practical effects as well. Okay. All right. But now, the moment you've all been waiting for. But before we get to it, we're going to take a little break, 1 minute, and we'll be right back. We're going to be right back. And we are back. Time for the moment you all been waiting for. We're gonna do my rating of all the movies. All the movies. Gonna do the rating. All 9 movies. There's 9 movies. So you guys can type your ratings in the comments too, as well. We're gonna be going through them, and this is bound to piss off some of you. In the break, I did learn that the black goo in Alien Romulus is not Prometheus 5, it's Prometheus Fire. Prometheus Fire. And the official name for the creature that she gives birth to is the offspring. So that's pretty creepy. So we got the newborn and we got the offspring. Now we got 2 like weird humanoid things. So we're gonna go backwards, from worst to best. Let's do this. Let's get right to it. Worst movie, Alien versus Predator. Come on, it's bad. Alien versus Predator 2. You knew it was bad. You knew it was bad. You knew this was gonna be the bottom. How is this not gonna? How would this not be on the bottom? It's a bad movie. Like I said, generic, horrible mid-2000s horror movie cast. It felt like the cast of I Know What You Did Last Summer or something. 2 brothers. Yada yada yada. It's edited really poorly. It's edited really poorly to the point where I can, even if some of the action scenes would have been cooler if it wasn't edited so bad. So AV Predator 2, worst of the worst. Worst of the worst. All right, now to continue pissing people off with the rankings. I feel like this next one is gonna make some of you mad. But, it's my stream, so, I don't know. You might not agree with this, but yeah. Okay. Alien 3. I'm just going to let you guys react to that one. Alien 3. Yeah, I just thought that the decisions in this movie to kill Newt and Hicks just completely undermined Aliens in a way that really bummed me out, and it really upset me. I don't think I disliked it as much as a kid, but watching it as an adult, after watching Alien and watching Aliens, going right into Alien 3, it really took the wind out of my sails. You have this hero, and then everything she fought for at the end of the last movie is meaningless in this movie. Everything she fought for is meaningless in the beginning of this movie. And her life sucks so much that she just kills herself at the end. It's too bleak. There are things to like about it, but I feel like it's so difficult to go from that high of Aliens and then that opening of Alien 3 when they're just all dead. That was really difficult. And so for that, plus for me, what I felt like was a plot that did not intrigue me, with bad CGI and just really bad technical problems, bad sound. There was a lot of technical things wrong with the movie, a lot of bad shots, really bad audio quality in some that was actual really bad audio quality, where you could tell that there's a noise gate on the audio because it'll be silent and then someone will start talking and you'll just hear this loud hiss because it was so loud and noisy when they were recording it. So I just feel like it's not a well executed movie in my opinion. So I'm sorry. I know some people really like this movie. Alien 3 is number 8 for me. And next on the list, Alien Covenant. Alien Covenant. Oh God. Well, I feel like I feel you guys probably knew I was going to rate this not too highly, just based off of me talking about it earlier. But yeah, like I said earlier, essentially the characters are just so selfish and bad, and they just do really awful things. The ship's pilot risking the lives of 2,000 colonists to go save his wife/girlfriend. This is why we have protocol. This is why you all signed up to do this. This is why you're in charge, right? You're in charge because you're supposed to be the person that makes the right decision. You're supposed to be the person that makes the decision that's for the good of everybody and not just for the good of your few friends, right? So I just feel like the characters were super evil, kind of like the good, like the like this the medical officer that locks the other girl in the room with the neomorph. Like, what, you lock her in the room and don't let her out? And it wasn't even out of the guy. She didn't even know what was happening. She's like, I'm gonna contain the virus, but you just got sprayed in the face with his blood. So if you're trying to contain a virus, shouldn't you be locked in that room with her? But you can get out, but she's got to stay in the room and die. Yeah, I just thought they suck. They suck. They suck. They suck. They suck. And yes, someone said humans suck, but these are humans that have chosen to go on a colony mission. So I feel like you know what's up. You know what's up. You know what's expected of you. And I feel like for them to behave the ways that they did, like, because the medical officer in particular was like so unprepared for a medical emergency. Like, you're a medical officer on a colony ship in outer space and you're that freaked out when something goes wrong. She was way too freaked out. Like, I get being freaked out, but you were way too freaked out to the point where, like, you basically murdered the other girl. She was freaked out to the point where she basically murdered the other girl by locking her in the room. So that was crazy to me. And then also it's the fact that the movie just does not follow through with what Prometheus set up. It does not follow through with the ideas that Prometheus set up. It just doesn't. And that to me is just super deflating. And it does the same thing that Aliens 3 does, which is, kill the characters off screen. Like, why would you kill Shaw off screen? Like, at the end of Prometheus, like, you're expecting this movie to have Shaw. You expected, I don't know what I expected. I don't know. Maybe like you go to the planet and then Shaw's there and it's been 10 years and she's kind of like been surviving here. And I don't know, she's messed up by the fact that like she's found out the truth about the engineers and what they actually wanted and what they did. But no, we don't get any of that. We don't get answers to any of the questions that are introduced in Prometheus. We don't know why the engineers did anything they did. We know the same thing that we know at the end of Prometheus. We get nothing. We get nothing. And it's very frustrating. It was frustrating experience the first time I saw it, and it was frustrating again watching it when I did my marathon recently. So Alien Covenant, number 7. I'm so sorry. Number 6, Alien versus Predator. At the very least, this is a fun movie. Like I said, it is a dumb movie. This is a dumb movie. This is a dumb, silly movie. And it's not a part of the canon. It's its own standalone thing, but it's fun. It's fun if you just let go and don't care about it. You don't like try and judge it. Don't try and make it make sense, and it'll be fun. Like when I turned this movie on, when I watched it in my marathon, I went into it with the understanding that this is not going to be like, oh, this is like a movie that's comparable to the other movies in the franchise, because it's not. It's not on the same level as the good movies in the franchise. It's just not. But it's fun. It's a fun, stupid what if movie. And, I'm going to show it to my kids one day and it'll be fun. You know what I mean? So that's all that needed to be. That's all it needed to be. So that's why I have it at number 6, because I feel like it's pretty effective at what it's doing and it's effective at what it's trying to be. It is pretty silly. It is pretty, you got to admit, Mavel, that it is pretty silly, but it's fun. It's so fun. Okay, next we got Alien Resurrection coming in at number 5. So Alien Resurrection at number 5. I feel like this is a fair position to put this movie. It's got the silly moments, like I said, that I really liked. It's also a fun movie. Points for the creepy newborn, points for the cool looking queen. And like I said in the beginning of this stream, I have a thing for Alien Ripley 8. I think Ripley 8 is super cool. I think she's epic. I dig Ripley 8. I don't know what it is. I think she's cool. I thought the movie was funny. Not the best, but that's why it's right in the middle. It's right in the middle here. It's just like it's an okay movie. It's an okay movie. And then what's my next one? Prometheus. Prometheus coming in at number 4. I know some people really, really, really love this movie, and I have a soft spot. I have a soft spot in my heart for Prometheus for sure. I have a soft spot, just because I like the concepts And like I mentioned earlier, check out, linked in the description, the podcast episode that I did not too long ago about Prometheus and ancient astronaut theory and all that stuff. We also tie it into H.P. Lovecraft's At the Mountains of Madness because it has some similar threads of similarity going through it. But I like Prometheus. You know, you heard what I said earlier. It does have its problems, and you know that's the reason it's not higher on the list because of the issues that it has. But I think it's a likable movie, and I think it's an enjoyable movie for the most part. And you know, I see the potential in it, and I see what the ways in which it could have been better. And you know, because I like Prometheus, because I actually like this movie so much, that's why Alien Covenant is so low on my list. Because Alien Covenant was supposed to follow through with what was set up in Prometheus. It was supposed to be a continuation of what was set up, and it wasn't. And it's the most disappointing thing ever. But Prometheus, it's an okay movie. It's good. I can't even say it's okay. I genuinely like this movie, so it had to be number 4. What's my number 3? What's my number 3? Can you guess my number 3? And number 3, Romulus. Romulus. So, okay, I really love this movie. Like I said, the theater experience watching this movie was so good. And like I said, it had everything in it that made a alien movie worth watching. It had all the things that make an alien movie worth watching. And though I feel like it's really good and it has some of the best scenes in any alien movie, it's got some of the best tension and horror in any alien movie. It's still on the back of Aliens and Alien. Someone says recency bias. I don't think so, because I rewatched all of the movies recently. I rewatched everything, and I think I was super measured when creating my ranking. It's not a recency bias. I genuinely believe that this is one of the best alien movies that's been made. And I truly hope this movie in particular gets a sequel, because the director deserves to make a sequel to this. And I feel like these characters deserve more. And the movie's also like perfectly paced. Like the pacing is near perfect. And I feel like that is important with an alien movie. You got to have good pacing. You heard Romulus sucked. The people that are telling you that it suck, because Romulus was fun. And I love how it tied everything in to the other movies. And, you know, Romulus is my number 3. If you have not seen it, if you're thinking about going to see it, Quinn's Ideas, personally, I recommend going to see it. As a lover of the Alien franchise, you've maybe been watching me for the last 2.5 hours talk to you about how much I love the Alien franchise. So, you know, genuinely, I'm someone that really loves this franchise. And genuinely, I'm telling you that Romulus, I think, is a great addition. I think it's a great addition. So yeah, number 3 for me. What's my number 2? Alien. Okay, so Alien is the classic, right? Like I said, there's nothing to hate about this movie. And if you put yourself in the context of the time, no one knew what the monster looked like. Someone says, "What do you think of Ash?" I think Ash is a cool character. We talked about him a bit earlier. I think it's super unsettling in the original movie when Ash turns out to serve the company over the lives of his crew members. I think it's super unsettling because you kind of relying on Ash a little bit throughout the movie, and then it's like, oh, you're actually a bad guy. But anyway, yeah. So no one knew what the monster was. No one knew what the xenomorph looked like. No one really knew what the face hugger was going to look like. So the movie is just so iconic. You know, the cryo sleep pods become a staple of the franchise. It's got that creeping tension. You know, it deserves to be high up. And everyone knows what my number 1 is. You know what my number 1 is? Aliens. Aliens is the best movie. I don't know what to say. It's just so good. I like I said, I watched the special edition, the extended edition recently in 4K, and it's just so thrilling and exhilarating, and it just masterfully balances like the intense action sequences with the terrifying horror elements. that define the original movie. And you know, while the original one is like a slow burn horror movie, Aliens like totally ramps up the pace. Like the pacing is crazy, so it's like thrilling. It's got combat scenes, and it still keeps the suspense and dread of like the xenomorph as a threat. Game over, man. Game over. That scene where Vasquez says, "Has anyone ever mistaken you for a man?" So good. So many good lines. Just like, oh, it's so quotable. The way it expands the world building. It introduces the concept of the xenomorph hive and the queen. You know, it adds depth to the alien species. You know, it expands on the corporate greed of like Weyland Yutani. It adds all these layers to the franchise lore. And then, like I said, all the characters are great. Vasquez, Ripley, Hudson, Hicks, everybody's so quotable. And, you know, the cast is, to me, is more memorable than the original cast, right? And then they mostly come out at night. That's such a good line. They mostly come out at night, mostly. Yeah. The way this movie develops Ripley into the person that we know and love, she really develops into a hero in this movie. The loss of her daughter, like, you know, her finding Newt and finding new purpose, it adds so much emotional depth and resonance. And, you know, I love the pacing of Alien Romulus, but the pacing of Aliens is flawless. And I watched the extended cut. Like, the pacing is flawless. Like, the way the tension is built throughout the movie, and it just keeps you on edge. Just everything from like the initial discovery of like the empty colony to like the battle against the queen, like the way like that, you know, the queen's coming up the elevator, but you got is the practical sets. Oh my god, yeah, just the sense of urgency and danger just make it so like exhilarating. Like I said, the practical effects, all of the effects are so groundbreaking. And you know, James Cameron is known for his effects, right? So like the animatronic queen, the xenomorphs all looked really good. Everything just looked really good. It definitely, something about this movie felt so tactical and real. Felt really tactical. That's the thing about practical effects in older movies that are done well, is that everything has a tactical, real feeling to it, added to it. So yeah, James Cameron deserves the praise that he gets as a director, especially for like, because he's created so many iconic things. He definitely deserves the praise that he gets as a director, because the influence of this movie has been so long lasting, right? So yeah, I have some notes here. Like the box office performance of this movie grossed approximately $131 million worldwide on a budget of $18 million, and this is in 1986, right? That's huge. That is a huge profit for 1986. Huge. On $18 million, $131 million. Sheesh. Right? And then this movie was acclaimed from the get-go. You know, the first movie was definitely had impact and was acclaimed, but like the acclaim and impact of this movie, to me, outweighs the first one. I feel like this is the most quoted version of Alien. This is the most quoted Alien movie. This is the most parodied Alien movie. It's just the most iconic one, right? And it's, of course, this is the movie that's been recognized and awarded. And like the legacy of it is just, you see it everywhere. You see it everywhere. So just even compared to the success of the other movies, this movie was a smash hit then. It continues to be a classic movie now. And it's just one of the most perfect movies that you'll ever encounter. It is, in my opinion. So yeah. What did you guys think? What are your rankings? Because I'm out of slides. I think we're getting towards the end. But what did you guys think of not only the stream, but of these movies? What's your ranking of the Alien movies? Let's start there. What is your ranking of the Alien movies? Looking at the chat. Let's see. Yeah, 18 million, and it looks almost better than anything made today. Absolutely. It looks so good. Especially in 4K. You got to watch these in 4K. Like if you have the option to stream these movies in 4K, definitely do it, because it adds so much to it. Egg morphing seems like the worst possible fate. Yeah. Oh God. Yes. Good stream, good reviews, good rankings. Yeah, I think I thought about my ranking a lot. But like ultimately, this is the ranking that I came to. And if anybody's coming in late to the stream, I will put timestamps on this video later, so you will be able to like jump through and get and rewatch the stream and get to all the parts. Someone says you should do a re-ranking in a few years to see if you think Romulus still holds up over Prometheus. I think I would still put it in the same spot because I just think Romulus is the better Alien movie. It is the better Alien movie. I feel like Prometheus, one of the problems with Prometheus is it's confused about what it wants to be. Are you an alien movie? Are you a movie about these engineers that seeded life on Earth? You've got to decide what you want to be and then go with one of these. You know what I mean? It should have been one or the other. And because it was so confused about what it was trying to be, it didn't fully accomplish its goal on either thing. To me. Mabel says, Romulus and Aliens are all tied for me. You know, they're all up there. I think they're the three best. And I don't think I'm crazy. I really enjoyed the movie. And this is coming off of like recently watching all of them. I do think these are the top three movies. I do think those are the top three. And we compared everything. We did everything. This has been a pretty in-depth stream, I feel like. Pretty in-depth stream. It would be funny if they try to claim me for showing that Rick and Morty clip earlier, because in the last stream that I did when I reacted to like the Dune trailer, Warner Brothers tried to claim the stream, which is really annoying. But yeah, why would you try to claim my stream? But yeah. Someone says, Prometheus was badly edited, in my opinion. So now we need a Predator ranking, Quinn. Well, maybe that'll happen because I am planning on going back and watching all the Predator movies. I was going to do it with this rewatch, but I didn't have time. But, you know, it is what it is. Predator ranking, maybe coming in the future. All right. So we are starting to wind down here. I think we've been going. This is a longer stream for Quinn's Ideas, 2 hours and 40 minutes. We usually don't go this long, but we had a lot to talk about. We had to go across all the Alien movies. I want to show off the popcorn bucket again. I wanted to show off the popcorn bucket. You see that? Tell me that's not cool. This is going to be like, this is right up there with the Dune popcorn bucket, which I don't have in there. You see how this says Weyland Yutani on it? And it's got the crack and the xenomorph. I think that Dune has definitely started the popcorn bucket wars, right? Because I feel like theaters are trying to find all these new ways to get people interested in going to movie theaters. So they got the popcorn buckets. Yeah, I feel like theaters are getting more comfortable. Like the one by my house, I feel like I'd love it because like the seats are far away. I feel like I'm not close to everybody. There's like space in between the rows. And I feel like if you want people to go to theaters, make the theaters more comfortable and, you know, give us cool toys. Give us cool toys. But I actually got this from Tribal Life Collectives, my friend and moderator, dear friend of the YouTube channel. So you want this cool popcorn bucket, you can check the link in the description because he has them on his website. If you can't find these where you live, you can get them from his website. Oh, I want to turn it off, but yeah, it's so fucking cool. You know, I did a Halloween Mad Scientist party last year, and this would have been a really cool prop to have. So it would have been a really cool prop to have, but alas. Anyway, I love you guys. If you've enjoyed the stream, hit the like button. Please, please, please hit the like button. It really helps out. After the stream is published, if you are so inclined, please go leave a comment on the video. It really helps out with the algorithm. It's been so much fun going through all the Alien movies with you guys. And yeah. When is the Thing video coming? I'm trying to get it out this month. I'm trying to get it out hopefully next week. So yeah, I'm working on my Thing video, which I'm going to go back to H.P. Lovecraft's At the Mountains of Madness, tie it into Who Goes There by John Campbell, tie it into John Carpenter's The Thing, and then that ties into Peter Watts's The Things. So we were the chain of inspiration and influence, and that's what that video is about. So that one's going to be really cool. But thanks for watching the Alien stream. Go see Alien Romulus if you have not. it's okay if you missed the stream. You can definitely rewind it and, you know, go back and watch it again. Thank you guys so much for listening. I hope you all have really nice days, and it's been good seeing you. Peace out, guys.